Hello everyone, Zeno here. Here to bring in part 7 of What If TMNT Were Teleport in Avatar. Link down description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Chapter 13, The Shredder Strikes. Appa flew straight towards Boss Sing Se, carrying Aang, Leo, Master Splinter, Sokka, Mikey, and Don with him. They flew as fast as the bison could fly. Katara's in danger, Mikey asked. Yeah, big danger, Leo confirmed. What kind of trouble exactly are we talking about? Sokka asked as well. I don't know, Aang replied. In my vision, all I knew was that she needed help. Anything specific to tell us? Don questioned. Something we can actually use. Because at this point, we're flying blind. It's all I got, Aang said. Well, I saw something else too. What? Sokka asked. A gauntlet, a clawed gauntlet. Aang replied, causing Mikey and Don's eyes to widen. Sensei. Mikey whispered. He's not talking about. I would certainly hope not, but we must prepare for the worst. Splinter whispered to his 3 sons on board. Hey, look down there. Leo pointed down. The group saw something big and fast move along the ground to the outer wall of the Earth Kingdom capital, leaving a large trail of dust behind. Aang directed the bison towards the object. Raph and Toph rode on the boulder that she was moving with earthbending until the red-clad turtle spotted the bison. Heads up Toph, bison incoming. Raph informed, causing Toph to slow down as the sky bison flew parallel to the two. You guys need a ride? Don asked. Underground chambers. In a massive tunnel, deep beneath the city, Azula was garbed in her Fire Nation uniform as she stood alongside the still-disguised Ty Lee and Mai, with Karai as well in her foot uniform. In front of the 4 young women stood every single Dai Li agent, which was roughly 3 dozen. Long Feng walked up towards the Fire Princess. Long Feng, are you certain this is every agent of your organization? Azula asked him. Yes Princess, every agent here is at your disposal. Long Feng confirmed. Excellent. Try not to take this personal though, I admire your organization quite well. Azula told him, much to his confusion. I'm sorry, I don't understand. I am sorry as well. Karai spoke up to him, as she knew what was coming next. She stepped out of the way of the door. Once it opened 3 individuals stepped out. The hulking behemoth Hun, the robotic body of Dr. Stockman, and finally, the intimidating leader and master of the Food Clan. Who are you? Long Feng questioned. Your death, Shredder replied as he raised his clawed gauntlet. Eliminate them all. With that, a series of arrows shot down from the dark ceiling and hit all the frontmost Dai Li agents, killing them instantly. The remaining agents together erected an earth wall to protect them from the onslaught. Wah, what is this? Long Feng demanded, only for Hun to step in front of him. Come on, don't you know when you're being stabbed in the back? Hun asked with an evil smile as he bashed Long Feng with the back of his arm, knocking him back to the wall. The arrows stopped firing onto the agents, and falling out of the dark ceiling were a 12-foot ninja, each bearing a long katana. The foot charged forward to engage the frontmost Dai Li agents. While they were able to up a good fight, the Dai Li were unprepared for the quickness and speed of these ninjas. A few agents caught their swords in their rock gloves, only to be kicked away hard in the head. The ninjas began to hack and cut away the Dai Li agents with their blades. The Dai Li tried to form a large ring with their remaining members, but while the foot ninja kept their attention focused around them, they were completely unaware of the large plume of smoke that popped up from the center of their group. The innermost agents turned around in time to see the 4-foot elite guard appear and they too struck. The foot elite were much faster and stronger than the lower-ranking foot ninja, thus the Dai Li could not counter in time for them to attack. The Dai Li were now being slaughtered as they were sliced, impaled, broken, and even a few were decapitated. Blood sprayed all over the floor, as shadows loomed all over the chambers of this slaughter. Shredder watched all of this, unfazed. Hun smiled at this carnage while Stockman looked unsurprised. Ty Lee had covered her mouth with both her hands, eyes quivering in fear. Mai could only look in absolute shock. Azula was slightly fazed at this carnage, yet at the same time, she had now developed an admiration for the foot's ruthlessness. Karai just looked down, eyes closed, in shame. Long Feng got up only to see the last of his Dai Li agents being impaled by one of the elite foot spears. Long Feng could not explain this, but this was a whole new sense of fear and terror that completely him. He turned around to try and run only for Shredder to appear in front of him. Before he could react, Shredder brought his claws down to Long Feng. Slice. Long Feng held his throat, as he felt two deep gashes. Blood oozed out from between his fingers, as he fell on his knees and his vision became blurry. The last thing he saw was Shredder looking down on him before he fell face first on the ground, with a puddle of blood growing below him. HMPH. Pathetic. Shredder spat. The Foot Ninja and Elite Guard all bowed to Shredder, their blades soaked in the blood of the now dead Dai Li agents. The Dai Li is no more, Master Shredder. One Elite Ninja informed. Yes, I can see that. Shredder replied. Tai Li stuck close to my. Is it just me? Or is Shredder way more scary than Azula? Tai Li whispered. It's not just you. Trust me. Mai replied. Probably best we stick close to Karai. No argument here. At least she's nice. Tai Li agreed. Azula didn't like this either, but not for the same reason. I still think we could have used them. Seems like a waste. Hun walked behind the three girls. The Dai Li were just dead weight, and you three better behave unless you want to end up like Stockman. Like Stockman? Tai Li questioned as all three eyes looked towards him. I made the mistake of crossing Shredder before. Stockman revealed. Only to end up like this. His robotic chest opened up to reveal a liquid-filled container inside. Inside the liquid was in fact Baxter Stockman's brain, and a single eye, all attached by wires that kept him installed to the robotic body. Mai and Tai Li both gasped, even Azula looked surprised at this. Karai's look of shame increased. You're just a brain. Tai Li screamed. I don't even want to know what happened to the rest of you. Mai stated. How did you end up like that? Azula questioned. Why don't you ask him? Stockman's holographic head directed to Shredder, who approached the group. Tai Li hid behind Karai as she approached. Father. Karai bowed. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Shredder spoke to the Fire Nation girls. Stockman, as well as Long Feng and his Dai Li, are the perfect examples of what happens to those who would dare cross me. Is that clear? Yes, Master. Hun replied with a smile. A perfect example. Karai, is everything ready for the usurpation of the Earth King? Shredder asked. Yes, Father. Karai informed. The Foot are in position and need only wait your command. Perfect, now all that remains for us are the turtles and the Avatar. Shredder stated. And my brother and uncle. Azula added. Upper Palace Wall. Iroh and Zuko were both dropped by a carriage off near the main gate for the uppermost wall. They both walked towards it, with Iroh carrying a teapot in his hands. Many times I imagined myself here, at the threshold of the palace. Iroh reminisced. But I always thought I'd be here as a conqueror, instead we are the Earth King's personal guests, here to serve him tea. Destiny is a funny thing. It sure is, Uncle. Zuko agreed. Appa just passed over the upper wall. Aang, Sokka, and Toph sat at Appa's head, while Leo, Don, Raph, Mikey, and Master Splinter sat on Appa's back behind the kids. So how'd it go with the Guru? Did you master the Avatar state? Toph asked. Leo and Splinter both grimaced a bit. Aang tried. If you leave now, you won't be able to go into the Avatar state at all. Aang, are you okay? Sokka asked. Aang managed to form a smile. I'm great. It went great with the Guru. I completely mastered the Avatar state. He laughed awkwardly. Yeah. The turtles and their sensei were talking amongst themselves. He didn't master it, did he? Raph asked his brother. No, he didn't. Leo replied. What happened? Mikey asked. Young Aang had a rather particular vision and he had no choice but to come here, that was one of the reasons. Splinter informed. One of them? Don asked. What are the other reasons? We'll worry about that later. Leo said. We just need to get to the Earth King ASAP. Leo. Mikey asked. Should we tell Aang and his friends about, you know who? He whispered. I don't know. Leo replied. I just don't know yet. If he is here, we need to make sure Aang doesn't go anywhere near him. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Raph agreed. However, I can sense a great darkness approaching my sons. Splinter informed. Be on guard, those who do their best to avoid a road they do not wish to travel might find themselves already on it. Zuko and Iroh were in some form of suite, awaiting the Earth King. Iroh just finished pouring some tea as he and his nephew sat at the table in the middle of the room. What's taking so long? Zuko asked. Maybe the Earth King overslept. Iroh guessed. Zuko held a bag, which held his Dao swords inside. He looked around and noticed how quiet it was, too quiet. Something's not right. Once that was said, 10-foot ninja fell from the ceiling. They drew their katanas as they surrounded the two firebenders, forcing them to go back to back. A column of smoke appeared and near the front of the room appeared the 4 elite foot guard. Iroh observed the elite with interest. Nice hats, he told the elite, causing them to glare a bit as they were quiet, sick of hearing that comment. It's tea time, Azula said as she stepped near the elite. Azula. Zuko scowled. Have you met the Foot? Azula asked. They're an organization of non-bending warriors not aligned with any of the 4 nations, but they have a killer instinct that's so firebender. I just love it. Iroh picked up a cup of hot tea. Did I ever tell you of how I got the nickname, the Dragon of the West? Azula nonchalantly looked at her nails. I'm not interested in a lengthy anecdote, uncle. It's more of a demonstration really. Iroh drank the tea. Zuko smiled, as he knew what was coming next. Zuko ducked as Iroh unleashed a powerful fire blast from his mouth, forcing all the Foot ninja back. One fire blast from Zuko broke down a wall as he took his Dao swords and ran out, with Iroh shooting another fire blast from his mouth into the room before running after his uncle. 2-foot ninja rolled out into the hall and threw a series of shurikens at the 2 firebenders. Zuko and Iroh turned down a corner as the shurikens struck the wall and just missed their intended targets. A lightning blast from Iroh blew a hole into the wall leading to an opening outside. Iroh jumped out the hole and fell 2 stories outside before landing hard on a shrubbery. Come on, Iroh called to his nephew. You'll be fine. No, Zuko called back. I'm tired of running. It's time I faced Azula. Zuko turned back inside. Iroh face-palmed at Zuko's recklessness before running off. Zuko faced his younger sister as well as a few Foot ninja. You're so dramatic, Azula drawled. What, are you going to challenge me to an Agni Kai? Yes, I challenge you, Zuko replied. No thanks, Azula rejected, though I'm sure the Foot elite will take you up on that offer. Smoke surrounded Zuko as the 4 elite Foot ninja surrounded him. He drew his Dao swords to block their weapon strikes coming at him. He lit his swords on fire as Zuko tried to swing and strike at them, sending blasts of flame at the elite guard, but they circled him and kept striking with their weapons. Zuko blocked an axe strike from one elite but was slashed in the back by the one with the trident, forcing him onto the ground. There the elite stopped their assault as they just looked down at him as he regained his breath. They stood and did nothing, as if they were waiting for him to get back up and strike. Zuko regained his breath, and with a yell, got back up with his flaming swords and spun around to create a form of flaming vortex to protect himself, but the elite just braced themselves as mostly their capes were slightly burnt. They went on the offensive this time, running and circling him, striking him with their weapons as he was now stuck blocking them and couldn't get a single opening to attack. One elite drove a foot into his chest to knock the wind right out of him and sent him to the wall where another elite slammed his elbow in Zuko's face, slamming the back of high head into the wall, knocking him out. The 4 elite took the moment to observe him. This one is strong. Strong. Him, Azula questioned. Don't be ridiculous, he's weak. You underestimate him. Another elite replied. Swordsmanship and firebending, there is power within him. It's a shame he's fighting against us, he could be a great asset to our master. The Foot ninja gathered around him and picked up the unconscious Zuko and proceeded to leave with him, while Azula found herself contemplating on what the elite just said. Earth King's palace. The whole group found themselves before the Earth King. Katara's fine. You have nothing to worry about, he told them. Are you sure? Don asked. Tell me we weren't worried over nothing. Raph said. I was hopping to pound some heads in. But in my vision, I felt so sure she was in trouble. Aang said. Your Majesty, when did you last see Katara? Leo asked. Well, she met with the Council of Generals to plan the invasion, and since then, she's been with your friends, the Kyoshi warriors. The Earth King answered. See guys, she's with Suki. Sokka addressed Aang and the turtles. They're probably back at our apartment talking about makeup or something. Okay, maybe you're right. Aang said. Your earthly kingness, Mikey began. Have you seen anything suspicious lately? Something that spells, dark and dangerous. Like maybe a guy with armor covered in blades. Believe me, if there was any danger at all, Bosco's animal instincts would sense it. The Earth King said as the bear raised its head with a slight groan. Boy, that's reassuring. Raph sarcastically whispered to Toph, who snickered at that comment. Master Splinter stroked his beard. Despite the fact that nothing seemed out of the ordinary, he could tell something was very wrong. Katara found herself pacing in an isolated crystal catacomb that served as her prison cell. A metal hatch opened above her, with a foot soldier looking down towards her. You have a new cellmate. Another foot ninja threw in Zuko, who fell to the ground in front of her before closing the hatch. He looked up to her as she could only glare. Zuko. Unknown to both of them, there was a tiny mouser robot behind a crystal at the far end of the catacomb. This mouser served as a security camera that gave a live feed directly towards an underground chamber, which served as the Foot's temporary base, as well as the site of the slaughter of the Dai Li. A screen, which Stockman set up, gave a view of what was happening inside this cell, with Karai alone watching what would soon unfold. Appa landed just outside the house that the Gong and Turtles once stayed in while Long Feng was in control of the city, which also had a hole in the far side, courtesy of Toph from earlier. The group walked inside. Hey guys, where ya been? Casey greeted as Momo was on his shoulder, which ran to Aang. Momo. Aang greeted as he let the lemur climb onto his shoulder. Casey, hey man. Raph greeted as the two high-fived. You seen Katara anywhere? Leo asked. No, no one's been here all day. Casey replied. What? Don questioned. He's right, there's no one else in here. Toph confirmed. Katara is in trouble. Aang stated. I knew it. Oh no. Sokka said. Trouble? Casey asked. Guys, what's going on? Before anyone could reply, Toph sensed something. Wait, someone's at the door. They all heard a knock. A smile formed on Toph's face. Actually, I know who it is. She walked up to it. It's an old friend of mine. She opened the door to reveal none other than Iroh. Yo old man. Casey warmly greeted as well. How ya been? I need your help. Iroh said. The Turtles and Splinter looked surprised. Aang and Sokka were shocked beyond belief, while Toph and Casey just smiled and waved at him. You guys know each other? Aang questioned. This is that guy who owns the tea place I told you about, awesome guy. Casey told the group. And I met him in the woods once and knocked him down. Toph told them as well. Then he gave me tea and some good advice. May I come in? Iroh politely asked, to which Casey and Toph both nodded and he walked inside, though some were surprised as he hadn't freaked out yet at some certain individuals. Ah, you do know there are 4 giant turtles and a giant rat in the same room, right? Don asked. Yeah, this is usually the part where people freak out on us. Raph added. Iroh gave a slight chuckle. When you're as old as me, you've seen some very interesting things. He then turned to the group with a serious face. Princess Azula is here in Ba Sing Se. Are you kidding me? Mikey questioned. Somehow, this doesn't surprise me. Leo said with contempt in his voice. Ah, Princess Azula. Casey asked as this was the first time he heard that name. The Fire Lord's daughter. Raph told him. And a total overconfident, punk-ass kid. She's a master and gifted firebender. Don added. She's also a certifiable lunatic. Yeah, major whack job city. Mikey added as well, waving a finger around the side of his head for emphasis. I already don't like her. Casey replied to all these statements. She must have Katara. Aang deduced. She has captured my nephew as well. Iroh informed. What? Casey questioned. She got that kid too. Then we'll work together to rescue Katara and Zuko. Leo declared. Hold on, you lost me at Zuko. Sokka told Leo. What's your beef with this kid? He seems like a decent guy to me. Casey said. Sokka could not believe the words coming out of Casey's mouth. Decent guy. Are you kidding me? What? Casey questioned. Casey, Zuko is the prince of the Fire Nation, the Fire Lord's son. Leo told him. Yeah, so. Casey asked. So, what do you mean so? Aang asked. He's the bad guy. Sokka exclaimed. No he ain't. Casey contradicted. I've seen plenty of bad guys in my day, that kid is no bad guy. What makes you say that? You haven't even met him. Raph asked. Yeah, I did, at that tea shop. That scar of his tells the story. Casey told the group. I've been a victim of bullies most of my life, so I another victim when I see one, and that kid is a victim. He is indeed. Iroh confirmed. My nephew has suffered much abuse from both his father and younger sister for a long time. Well, if he's such a victim, then how come he's been chasing us all over the planet? Sokka questioned. I believe there is more to this tale than at first meets the eye. You cannot judge a man simply by his exterior. To know someone, you must see what lies inward. Splinter said. Indeed. Iroh agreed. I understand how you must feel about my nephew, but believe me when I tell you there is good inside him. I don't know about this, Don thought. I think it would be wrong of us to at least give him a chance. Leo said, much to the surprise of most of the group. I was taught that honor comes from giving second chances to even an old enemy. If Iroh here says there is good in him, then let's give him a shot. I thank you, young turtle. Iroh bowed. He has been quite obsessed for most of his life. Those who become obsessed are often their own worst enemy. Splinter added. Wait a minute, Raph said. How exactly is Azula planning to take over this entire city? There's no way she can do it alone. You are quite correct, Iroh replied. Azula has allied herself with a group of warriors known as the Foot. The Foot. Leo, Don, Mikey, Raph, and even Casey all exclaimed while Splinter glared. You know these guys? Aang asked. The Foot. Toph questioned. What kind of a name is that? Did they have some kind of special feat power? Wait a second. Sokka recalled. Back at the drill, didn't you say those engineers were trained by these Foot guys? Yeah, that's what, Mikey began until Raph interrupted him. Hold on a second, old man. The Foot were chasing you and you came here. Raph exclaimed to Iroh. No need to worry, I lost them. Iroh assured, but the trolls all face-palmed at that. What? You don't lose the Foot. Leo told Iroh. They're ninjas, trackers, like us. They are masters of stealth and adaptation, you never know when they strike. Splinter added. Mikey looked out the door a bit, while Iroh replied. I assure you that I lost. Guys, Mikey began as he looked out the crack of the door. We got company. Mikey could see on the roofs of the building across from them were several Foot ninja approaching. Toph soon felt the same thing all around. We're surrounded. You didn't lose the Foot. They followed you here. Raph yelled at Iroh, who laughed awkwardly. Heh, oops. The turtles all drew their weapons with Splinter, Casey and Sokka, while the benders of the group took combat stances. Okay, Leo, what's the plan? Don asked. Cause we could use one right now. Hey, I'm the plan guy, Sokka exclaimed. Not now, Sokka, Aang told him. No time for a plan anyway. Leo said. Why not? Aang asked. As soon as that was said, several Foot ninja all crashed in through the windows and quickly surrounded the group. We can't fight them in here, too cramped. Don stated. Agreed, Splinter replied. Everyone outside now. Aang sent a massive gust of air that blew away a couple foot out the door, letting the group of heroes run outside where the Foot attacked. Leo, with the use of Jet's hook swords, blocked the strikes from multiple enemy katanas. He was able to use the hooks to ensnare the blades of the Foot in front of him. He then fell down and took those ninja down with him before using his feet to vault them over to more incoming ninjas. He then went on the offensive and attacked with the hook swords at 3 incoming ninja. Aang sent a gust of wind with the thrust of his palm into the abs of a Foot soldier, sending him flying into several more, knocking them down like bowling pins. One ninja tried to thrust at him with a spear, only for Aang to catch it and use earthbending to make a pillar to send the ninja high into the air. Aang twirled and broke the spear off the staff and used it like his glider to create a wind vortex by spinning and sending an air blade down the street into 5 ninja, forcing them to scatter. Raph blocked a katana strike with one of his sai, before snapping the blade with the curved handle. He then kicked the ninja aside and jumped to avoid another strike and kicked the attacking ninja in the head. 4 more Foot approached him as he went on the offensive and slashed one in the chest with his sai and elbowing him in the back. Raph ducked underneath a horizontal slice from another ninja before slicing him in the back and using a roundhouse to knock him back into the remaining 2 ninja. Toph shot both her fists outward to the left and right, creating large earth pillars in those directions that shot towards 2 incoming Foot ninja from each side. Both ninja jumped onto the pillars and ran towards her, only for her to punch the ground, creating a shockwave to knock them, as well as 4 other incoming foot ninja far back into the buildings all around. Mikey twirled his nunchucks as he charged forward. He bashed one ninja in the head, another up the jaw, and got 2 in one mighty swing. One ninja came in with a staff and tried to swing it at Mikey, only for him to catch the staff in the chain and snap it away, allowing Mikey to kick the ninja square in the chest. He then spun on his hand and knocked back 3 incoming ninja. Sokka found himself blocking with his machete and docking the relentless assault from 1 foot ninja. He tried to strike back, but the ninja was too quick. He kicked Sokka and sent him rolling to a wall. With the ninja slowly incoming, Sokka threw his boomerang out, and the ninja moved his head and gave a look that said, "Really?" to Sokka. "Wait for it," the water tribesman told him. The ninja gave a confused look before he was hit in the back of the head by the boomerang. He held the back of his head, letting Sokka get in with a high-pitched yell, smacking the ninja in the head with the back of his machete, knocking him out. Don slammed one end of his staff into the gut of a ninja incoming from behind and jumped behind 2 incoming ninja as they came down with swords. As soon as he landed, he gave a long sweep with his staff, knocking down both ninjas. He blocked another katana strike with the middle of his staff before performing a leg sweep to knock the ninja off his feet. Casey held a golf club and cricket bat in his hands and charged forward to 3 ninja. Goongala. He bashed one in the head with the golf club, blocked a katana strike with his cricket bat and ducking avoid another sword from the other ninja. Once he was down, he rolled underneath the ninjas and kicked one hard in the shin and slammed the cricket bat in the face of the last ninja. Splinter and Iroh found themselves back to back from several ninja. Iroh thrusted multiple fire fits forward, blasting a few ninja back. While some jumped at Splinter, but he quickly swung his staff so fast that the ninja were all sent flying before they knew what hit them. Unknowingly to most of the group as they were fighting, they didn't seem to notice 6-foot archers from all sides on the buildings around them, aiming their arrows at the 2 elder fighters. Once the arrows were let loose, both Iroh and Splinter exchanged knowing glances. Iroh let Splinter onto his back as the 2 locked arms and spun around. Splinter caught all 6 arrows in his tail. They switched positions, letting Iroh pump his feet in the directions the arrow came from, sending fireballs in those directions, blowing all the ninja back. It wasn't long before all the attacking foot ninja laid groaning as they were either semi-conscious or unconscious, surrounding the victorious heroes. "Man, those guys were tough," Aang stated, as he had to catch his breath. "That all of them?" Raph asked. "That's all that's around here, I can't sense anyone else." Toph relayed. "Now way, that's all the foot forces in the city though," Leo stated. "Yeah, there's gotta be more somewhere." Don agreed. "Perhaps one of these fellows can help us," Iroh offered, gesturing to a barley-conscious foot ninja. Leo picked up the foot ninja, and Toph followed by creating an earth cone around him to keep him restrained. Leo pointed his blade at the ninja's throat after removing his mask. "Start talking." The ninja gave a slight chuckle. "You think you've won? You've already lost and you don't even know it yet. This city is ours. Boss Sing Se is now the property of the foot." "My sister. Where are they keeping Katara?" Sokka demanded. "And Zuko, where's he at?" Casey also questioned. "Go ahead and rescue them if you want," the ninja told them. "They're underground, some kind of ancient city. Not that it won't matter." "Who else is here?" Raph questioned. "Who's working with Azula? You turtles should know by now." The foot felt around his mouth with his tongue until he pulled out a false tooth and bit into it. "Long live the foot." Those were his last words as foam formed in his mouth and he died. "Is he?" Aang questioned. "He is dead," Splinter confirmed. "Yeah, I'm not feeling a heartbeat anymore." How could he kill himself?" Sokka asked. "Cyanide pill," Don said. "It's a form of poison that some soldiers use to keep the enemy from interrogating them. Taking their secret to their grave," Iroh said. "We got what we need anyway, let's move," Leo ordered as the group ran out. What they didn't know is that they were being watched by a Mouser drone, which surveyed the whole thing. Underground cavern. Shredder was approached by Hun and Stockman, who both bowed before them. "Is it as I expected?" Shredder asked. "Yes, Master," Hun replied. "They're on their way." "Good." Shredder turned to Stockman. "It is time, signal the foot to begin, capture the generals and the king." "Now." "Yes, of course Master Shredder." Stockman then opened up a comm link. Stockman to all units, it's time. Begin operation, usurpation. Meanwhile, in a separate part of the cavern, Karai continued to watch the surveillance feed of Katara and Zuko's prison. Why did they throw you in here? Katara questioned to Zuko, who didn't even face her. Oh wait, let me guess, it's a trap. So that when Aang shows up to help me you can finally have him in your little Fire Nation clutches. Karai could tell from her tone of voice that this girl had a great deal of hatred for the Fire Nation. You're a terrible person, you know that. Katara scolded. Always following us, hunting the Avatar, trying to capture the world's last hope for peace. Last hope for peace? Karai questioned as she continued to watch. But what do you care? You're the Fire Lord's son. Spreading war, and violence, and hatred is in your blood. You don't know what you're talking about. Zuko told her. I don't. Katara questioned. How dare you? You have no idea what this war has put me through. Me personally. She turned around and hugged her knees. The Fire Nation took my mother away from me. She broke down in tears as she held her necklace. What? Karai breathed, quite surprised at that. Zuko turned around with a look of sympathy. I'm sorry. That's something we have in common. Karai looked sympathetic herself towards this, but a large hand on her shoulder interrupted her thoughts. You better not be thinking of going soft on us. Hun told her. My thoughts are none of your concern, huh? Karai told him as she got up with a glare. What is it you want? It's time. Toph felt along the ground. Well, what do you know, there is an ancient city down there. But it's deep. Toph then created a large crater to start the digging. We'll need to split up from here. Leo said. Aang, Splinter, Iroh and I will go to rescue Katara and Zuko. Raph, Casey, Toph, Sokka, Don, and Mikey, you guys try to warn the Earth King about the foot. Got it. Don replied. But, Leo began, if things go south, we'll need you all to go down to and meet up with the rest of us. Why's that? Sokka asked. Trust me, if we're dealing with who I think it is, we got a better chance if we all do it together. Leo instructed. Now let's move. Aang, Leo, Iroh, and Splinter continued down the tunnel, with Aang using earthbending to tunnel deeper with Iroh using firebending to light the way. There was a bit of an awkward silence. So, Toph thinks you give pretty good advice, and great tea. Aang told Iroh. The key to both is proper aging. Iroh joked, while Splinter laughed a bit at that, and Leo smiled. What's on your mind? Leo could only guess what Aang was thinking and he was right. Well, I met with this guru who was supposed to help me master the Avatar state, and control this great power. But to do it, I had to let go of someone I love, and I just couldn't. Perfection and power are overrated. Iroh said. I think you are very wise to choose happiness and love. That's right, Aang. Leo added. I've met my fair share of power-hungry psychopaths. Power can help, but it can also corrupt and make them even more crazy. There are those who try to tell us what path to take Avatar, but sometimes you must ignore what others tell you and trust what lies inside your heart. Splinter said as well. But what happens if we can't save everyone and beat these foot guys? Aang questioned. Without the Avatar state, what if I'm not powerful enough? I don't think we can just answer that question. Leo said. Yes, life throws in your way some obstacles that no one can tell you how to overcome, you must learn to do that on your own. Splinter stated. Sometimes life is like this dark tunnel. Iroh began. You can't always see the light at the end of the tunnel, but if you just keep moving. Aang gave another earthbending shove, showing the catacombs of old boss Sing Se to the group. You will come to a better place. Now let's find our friends, and get out of here before anyone knows we're down here. Leo said. Earth King's Palace. Raph, Toph, Casey, Sokka, Don, and Mikey, along with Momo, came to the top of the steps just at the entrance of the palace. They already spotted one of the generals. There's General Hao. Sokka pointed out. Wait. Raph stopped them. Hide. Raph pulled Toph behind a pillar while the rest hid along other pillars near them. Right when General Hao walked outside, 3-foot ninjas dropped down. One landed on his right and threw a chain out to ensnare Hao's right arm, while the second ninja did the same for his left arm. What is this? Who are you? The third ninja brought his katana close to General Hao's throat. It'll be easier if you don't resist, and less dangerous. The turtles and people hidden observed all of this. The coup is happening right now. Don stated. We gotta warn the Earth King. Sokka told them. No. Raph pointed out. We follow Leo's plan. We're all heading underground. What about the Earth King? Mikey asked. I'll warn him, you guys meet up with the others. Casey told them. But what's so dangerous that we all need to be together to fight? Sokka questioned. No time to explain, let's just move. Raph exclaimed. Toph, take us underground, now. Toph erected a small hole that led underground. She was the first to jump down, followed by Raph, Mikey, Sokka, and Don. Casey put down his hockey mask and ran inside to warn the Earth King. Meanwhile, at separate locations, each of the generals were being ambushed by foot ninja. One general walked over a drain, in which multiple ropes and chains were tossed up, and he found himself tangled in them. 2 foot landed on top of him and pointed their blades near his face. Another general was walking down an alleyway when 5 foot ninja fell down around him, surrounding him and pointing bladed spears near his throat. In the war room, the last 2 generals were overlooking the map, ignorant to the several foot ninja up on the ceiling. They threw down multiple shurikens around them, forcing them back to back as the foot all surrounded both generals, reading their blades. Earth King's throne room. Your Majesty. Casey came in towards the seated king. We got a problem. What kind of problem? The disguised Ty Lee flipped towards Casey and came close to his face. Yeah, what kind of problem? Big guy. Well, for starters, you ain't Kyoshi warriors. Casey stated as he shoved Ty Lee back. That statement earned a gasp from the Earth King. Sorry to disappoint you, Mai said as she flung many knives towards him, which he blocked with his hockey stick. Casey then jumped out of the way of a certain fist from a certain muscle-headed Neanderthal. Well, we meet again, Jones. Hun said as he cracked his knuckles with a sinister smile. Hun, Casey growled. Ty Lee jumped a bit near them. I take it you guys know each other. Oh yeah, we've met. Hun replied, not taking his eyes off Casey. You've thickened up though, haven't you? Casey cracked. Maybe you should cut out snacks before bed. Hun's eyes shot with anger. That's it. He threw his fist forward, which Casey ducked to avoid. Casey slammed the stick across Hun's face, forcing him back a bit, but Hun retaliated with a powerful kick to send Casey rolling back. Though Casey got up and drew a golf club with his bat and parried punches from Hun. Mai and Ty Lee found themselves watching this battle. Is it just me, or do those guys have some kind of grudge? Ty Lee guessed to Mai, who merely shrugged in response. This fight is over, Azula announced as she held the Earth King in front of her, with a small blue flame above her index finger. Casey looked to the girl with a glare. So, you're Princess Nutjob, huh? Princess Azula, she corrected with a glare. Nah, I'm sticking with Nutjob. Casey insisted. If you want the death of a monarch on your hands, keep talking. Azula threatened as she brought her flame closer to the Earth King. Casey sighed as he dropped his weapons and raised his hands. Ty Lee came in and blocked his Kai, causing him to fall to the ground. Get them all out of my sight. Azula ordered as a few foot soldiers came in, dragging Casey, and escorting the Earth King and his pet bear out of the throne room. Hun smiled at this. Azula looked to see the door open, with Shredder, Karai, and the elite ninja all enter the throne room. Ty Lee hid behind Mai once Shredder came into her field of vision, whereas Hun and all the foot ninja bowed. Master, the Council of Five, as well as the Earth King have been captured. Boss Sing Se is under your control. Hun told him. And so a country falls. Shredder stated. There was a dialing tone coming from a communicator Karai held. She opened it and Stockman spoke through it. Master, my surveillance footage says the turtles and their new friends are about to meet up soon in the catacombs underneath Boss Sing Se. Multiple foot soldiers are already on their way. Karai chose to speak up. Father, I understand the threat the turtles represent, but the Avatar is only a child. Are we not honor-bound to show him any form of mercy? Shredder glanced at Karai, honor-bound. Karai, you must learn that your duty to me is far more important than your honor. Karai was quite shocked at this. I understand, father. We shall see, Karai, Shredder told her, for you shall aid in slaying the turtles. Azula, Hun, Elite Ninja, you will all follow and slay the turtles as well as their new friends. With great pleasure, Master Shredder. Hun said with a grin. While I would indeed enjoy settling the score with those reptiles, what of the Avatar? Azula asked. I want to finish him, myself. Shredder declared. Catacombs. There was a bit of a silence between Katara and Zuko for some time. Her fury seems to have cooled quite a bit. I'm sorry I yelled at you for before. It doesn't matter, Zuko said, looking away. It's just, for so long now, whenever I'd imagined the face of the enemy, it was your face. Katara said. My face. Zuko repeated as he held his scar. I see. Katara realized what he meant. No, that's not what I meant. It's okay. Zuko replied. I used to think this scar marked me. The mark of the banished prince, cursed to chase the Avatar forever. But lately, I've released that I'm free to determine my own destiny. Even if I'll never be free of my mark. Maybe you could be free of it. That caught his attention. What? I have healing abilities. Katara said. It's a scar, it can't be healed. Zuko replied. Katara took out a small vial filled with special water. This is water from the spirit oasis at the North Pole. It has special properties, so I've been saving it for something important. I don't know if it'll work, but... Zuko gave a slight nod, knowing what she was implying. He closed his eyes to let her do what she needed to. She gently felt his scar. Before anything else can happen though, there was a loud explosion, which got both their attention. Coming out of the dust were Leo, Aang, Splinter, and Iroh. Aang, Katara happily exclaimed as she ran to him with a hug. Iroh did the same for Zuko, but Leo and Splinter both noticed a glare between the Avatar and the Fire Prince. Maybe we came at a bad time. Leo guessed. Zuko glanced at the Turtle Rat and formed a firebending stance. Who or what are you? We're not your enemies. Leo tried. We mean you no harm, young prince. Splinter also said. Uncle. Zuko began. I don't understand. What are you doing with the Avatar and these things? Saving you, that's what. Aang replied with a hostile tone, but Leo put a hand on his shoulder. We don't have time for this, Aang. Iroh put a hand on Zuko's shoulder as well. Zuko, it's time we talked. He turned to the group. Go help your other friends, we'll catch up with you. Do not stay too long. Splinter informed Iroh. This city is no longer safe. With that, Leo, Splinter, and Aang ran back out the tunnel with Katara close behind, though she gave a slight glance towards Zuko before running with her friends. Why, uncle? Zuko asked. You're not the man you used to be, Zuko. Iroh began. You are stronger, wiser, and freer than you have ever been, and now you have come to the crossroads of your destiny. It's time for you to choose, it's time for you to choose good. Zuko looked quite conflicted, but before anything else could be said, there was a cloud of smoke as multiple foot ninja appeared and crossed their blades around Iroh's throat. Zuko was about to attack them, if it weren't for a certain voice. I expected this kind of treachery from Uncle. Azula began as she walked in, with Shredder close behind her. But Zuko, Prince Zuko, you're a lot of things, but you're not a traitor, are you? Tell your dogs to release him immediately. Zuko exclaimed, referring to the foot ninja holding his uncle at sword point. Watch your tone, boy. Shredder warned as Zuko looked like he was about to strike him, but Azula held a hand in front of Shredder. I'll handle this, she told Shredder before addressing Zuko again. It's not too late for you, Zuko, you can still redeem yourself. The kind of redemption they offer is not for you. Iroh told Zuko. Mind your tongue, fallen dragon. Shredder told Iroh as Azula continued to speak. I need you, Zuko, the Foot and I have plotted every move of this day, this glorious day in Fire Nation history, and the only way we win is together. At the end of this day, you will have your honor back, you will have father's love, you will have everything you want. Zuko. Iroh began. I'm begging you, look into your heart and decide what it is that you truly want. Zuko looked down in confliction. You are free to choose. Azula said as she walked down the tunnel after the enemy. Zuko looked to see Shredder was still standing there. Why are you still here? He questioned. It seems you lack proper motivation, young Fire Prince. Shredder said. He looked towards his foot ninja and nodded. They brought their blades closer to Iroh's throat. No. Zuko shouted. Enough. Shredder told his ninja as they lowered their blades a bit but kept Iroh held. Zuko, is it? I have a proposition. Should you choose to aid me and help in destroying our common enemy, the turtles and the Avatar, you shall be so greatly rewarded. However, if you side against me, Shredder leaned in close so that only Zuko can hear. I will hunt down and slaughter everyone you love. Zuko's eyes widened at this. Your father, your mother, your sister, your uncle, your friends, I will butcher them all. I will force you to watch as all those you care for are slaughtered, and then, when you have accepted the reality of your despair, I will grant you death's sweet release. Shredder stood up. The choice is yours, I suggest you choose wisely, Fire Nation Prince Zuko. Shredder walked away as Zuko let the words of Shredder's threat sink into his mind. Leo, Aang, Katara, and Master Splinter ran out into the massive crystal chamber as fast as they could. We gotta find the others. Katara exclaimed. I do not believe we'll need to. Splinter replied as they heard a rumble noise. A large explosion occurred from the wall nearby. This was due to Toph's earthbending, who ran out to join the others with Sokka, Raph, Don, and Mikey close behind. Katara, Sokka exclaimed as he hugged his sister, who returned the hug. What's going on? Aang asked. Where's the Earth King? Casey went on to warn him. Raph replied. Anyway, where's the scar-faced guy? And Iroh? What about him? Toph asked as well. I think they're the least of our worries now. Don stated as a blue fireball shot towards them. Fortunately, Splinter came in and used a palm thrust to dispel the flame. They all looked to the obvious offender. Don't you have anything better to do with your life than come after us all the time? Raph questioned to Azula. Azula flashed an evil smile. What's better than seeking glory for? I'm just gonna stop you right there. Mikey interrupted the princess. I'm sure you've got this whole speech planned on how you're better than us in any way, but my bros and I have heard every big evil monologue there is, and coming from a little girl like you, it's just coming off lame. So just say that you're going to try and kill us and stop embarrassing yourself. Raph, Toph, Don, and even Leo smirked at Mikey's comment to Azula while Aang, Sokka, and Katara's jaws hung open at Mikey talking like that to her. Splinter's expression remained neutral. Azula had a blank stare on her face before it turned to pure rage. You dare, you treat me like I'm some kind of villain. You wretched, ignorant, reptile. She lost all composure at this point. Just who do you think you're talking to? Well, before this day is over, I swear that I will incenerate you. Azula shrieked. Is that better? Like a million times better, thank you. Mikey told her. Mikey, I don't think Azula's the only one we have to worry about. Toph warned as she sensed more coming this way. Once that was said, at least a dozen-foot ninja all came in alongside Azula, forcing the turtles, Splinter, and Casey to draw their weapons and Aang, Katara, and Toph to take bending stances. Soon, a large plume of smoke erupted in front of the villains, which cleared a way to reveal the Foot Elite. Most of the gang was slightly taken aback by their intimidating appearance. Nice hats. Sokka complimented. Sokka. Katara lightly scolded. Yeah, we thought so too. Mikey agreed with Sokka. Say what you will about the foot, but they do not skip on the headgear. Don added. But who are these guys? Aang asked. The Foot Elite Guard. Splinter replied. They are the deadliest of the ninja, lethal assassins. Aang and Katara looked quite scared at that last comment. But that wasn't the end of it. Right after, many foot ninja cleared the way as two individuals stepped in front. One was the hulking behemoth most recognized as Hun, the other was the swordswoman, Karai. You again. Sokka pointed to Hun. Missed me, freaks? Hun asked. Looks like you're all buddied up with the other freaks on this planet. Freaks? Is he talking about us? Katara asked. We're the freaks. Toph questioned. Why don't you come over here so I can smack that grin of your face, big guy? She challenged. No one, however, seemed to notice that Leo and Karai had both their eyes locked on each other, as though it were some form of visual combat. However, none were prepared for what came next. Many of the foot soldiers cleared the way, as a certain armored individual fell from the ceiling and landed in the clearing in between the foot forces and the heroes. As soon as he landed, the foot ninja, elite ninja, Karai, and Hun all bowed to him, with Azula even lowering her head as well. Aang, Katara, and Sokka were greatly taken aback by his intimidating and terrifying appearance, with the turtles looking in dread while Splinter scowled. No, Leo breathed. Oh crud. Raph cursed. It can't be, Don breathed as well. It's really him. Mikey also breathed. Why is everyone suddenly terrified? Toph questioned as she felt all their hearts skip a beat. Who is that? Aang asked. That is the master of the Foot Clan, the most evil and vile enemy we have ever faced before. Splinter said with a scowl. The Shredder. Katara and Sokka were quite scared at that. Shredder. How'd he earn that name? Katara asked with fear evident in their voice. Shredder stepped forward. You freaks have been a thorn in my side long enough. You and all your newfound allies will never leave this place alive. Geez, what you guys do to make this guy mad? Toph questioned to the turtles. Shredder's eyes fell on Aang. This is the Avatar. Yes, that's him. Azula confirmed. HMPH. Shredder was not impressed. When I heard of a being on this planet who could control all the elements, and travels with a band of equally skilled fighters, I had expected to find warriors, not school children. How disappointing. School children. Toph angrily questioned, ready to fight, until Dawn put a hand on her should. Not a good idea, Toph. He warned. Either way, this place shall be your tomb. Shredder continued. Say farewell to each other, while you still can. Oh yeah, Mr. Fancy Armor Guy. Sokka tried. Maybe you should say farewell to yourself. Oh yeah Sokka, that got M. Raph said sarcastically. Hey, I'm under a lot of pressure, alright. Silence. Shredder commanded. Aang took the time to speak with Leo. Leo, who is this guy exactly? I'll explain later, if we survive this. If. Katara, Sokka, Toph and Aang all questioned at the same time. Okay, honestly, what are we looking at here? Sokka asked. Guys, we're in for the fight of our lives. Leo told them. Foot Ninja, attack, Shredder ordered. Destroy them all. With that the battle had begun. The Foot Ninja were the first to charge forward at the heroes, forcing them to all scatter. Leo fell back, using Jet's hook swords once again. He had 5 Foot Ninja all coming toward him, with their own katana blades. Leo blocked the relentless assault, stuck on defense until all 5 threw their blades down on him. Leo used his right sword to block 2 and the left sword to block the other 3. He struggled against their grip until he let the hooks of the swords get caught in the ninjas' blades, and with one long swipe with both blades, cut away the swords off the Foot Ninja. He then gave a double spinning roundhouse to knock them all back. More foot were about to come in from behind until a fire blast separated Leo from the ninja. Leo and the foot soldiers looked to see Zuko walk forward. There was a bit of a heated stare down between Zuko, Leo, and the Foot Ninja. Zuko looked towards Shredder, who threw a glance to him. Remembering the threat, Zuko really had no choice anymore. He reluctantly shot a fireball towards Leo, forcing him back. Zuko drew his Dao swords and clashed blades with the blue-clad turtle. Katara jumped backwards towards a stream of water, when 4 Foot Ninja came forward and threw multiple shurikens towards her. Katara bent some of the water in front of her and turned it into ice to shield her from the shurikens. She melted the ice and formed 2 long water whips in her arms and shot them outward towards the Foot Ninja. One tentacle snapped one hard to send him flying, another ensnared 2, which she threw away with increased strength from the water. The last one came in with his sword, but Katara ducked and sent the water from her whips forward, splashing hard into the ninja. Katara ducked just in time, however, to avoid a horizontal sword swipe. Katara rolled a bit closer to the water to see Karai facing her. Katara drew more water from the stream and shot out multiple ice spikes to Karai, which she deflected with her own blades before rushing forward. Toph punched hard into the ground and created an earth wave to blast back several foot soldiers coming her way. Some tried to jump down towards her, but with a swiping kick from her feet, she sent a rock to hit all of them hard to send them flying. She then felt familiar steps rushing towards her. Toph threw an earth column forward towards the incoming Hun, which he punched through and it shattered, much to Toph's surprise. Hun was revealed to be wearing large metal gauntlets with electricity surging in the knuckles. Ready for round 2, little freak. Hun challenged as he slammed the electric knuckles together. Bring it, ugly. Toph accepted as she spat. She motioned for him to bring it on. He charged forward with a yell, reeling a fist back. Toph hopped on an earth ramp and sped towards Hun. She magnetized several rocks together in her right fist and reeled back with her own yell. Toph and Hun both connected their fists together, creating a shockwave to knock both of them back. Raph had knocked back 2 Foot Ninja and turned around to see Toph getting back up to face Hun. Raph growled, as he knew Hun was likely going to use some dirty trick on her. He was about to charge forward, but an elite ninja, the one wielding the trident, jumped in front and nearly impaled Raph with his weapon. Fortunately, the red-clad turtle jumped back. "Outta my way, pal," Raph told him as he was standing between him and Toph. But the elite ninja simply twirled his trident and took a combat stance. "Have it your way," Raph stated as he twirled his sei, and they both rushed towards each other. Raph used his sei to catch the blade of the trident as they locked weapons. Mikey, Don, and Sokka found themselves in a three-way back-to-back. Several foot ninja jumped towards them from all sides. Sokka, Mikey, duck. Don ordered as they all did, and the ninja all slammed into each other, knocking them out. Sokka flashed a bit of a smile. Well, that was easy. Only for Mikey and Don to face palm at that. "Sokka, you don't ever say it's easy. Ever," Mikey exclaimed. "Why?" Sokka asked, but Don pulled him down to avoid an axe strike from one of the foot elite, who wielded the axe as his weapon. While the other two elite ninja, the one with the spear, and the other with the double-bladed sword, faced Mikey and Don. "That's why," Don replied to Sokka's question. "Oh." The three elite ninja charged forward at the two turtles, and water tribesmen. Aang meanwhile found himself in a heated duel with Azula. She shot out a series of blue fireballs towards him. Only for Aang to jump over a stream and shoot a wave towards Azula, which she shot out flames from her feet to propel herself over it and land behind Aang. Shooting more fireballs at him, Aang retaliated by using earthbending to make a crystal wall to protect himself. He then shot multiple crystals forward to Azula, only for her to incinerate them with an arc of blue fire. She propelled herself again with her hands and feet, clashing directly into Aang, and the two fell on the other side of the stream. Aang tumbled while Azula landed gracefully. As Aang tried to get up, Azula was reading a strike of lighting until a furred hand grabbed her by the wrist and forced her to shoot the lighting upward to the ceiling, which then exploded. Master Splinter then thrusted his open palm to Azula's chest, forcing her back quite a distance. "Azula," Splinter exclaimed to her, "you wish to fight? Fight a true master. If you insist." Azula replied as she got up and shot a stream of blue fire towards him, only for Splinter to quickly swerve around it and rush towards the Fire Princess. Aang got up to see at least 3-foot ninja standing in front of him. "No." Shredder stepped in front of the ninja. "Finish off the others. This boy is mine." The foot jumped away. Shredder then rushed towards Aang with his clawed gauntlet. Aang tried to erect an earth shield to protect him, only for the shield to shatter with Shredder's slash. He gave a kick to Aang's chest and forced him to one of the tall pillars in the chamber. Shredder then pinned Aang hard against the pillar and tried to bring his claws down on his throat. Aang made some earth gauntlets to catch the gauntlet. They struggled against each other. Aang was completely astounded by his opponent's strength and speed. He was not like any enemy they've faced before. Aang could only look into his red eyes and saw the murderous intent deep inside. Aang inhaled deeply and sent a massive gust of wind that knocked Shredder back. Aang landed to see Shredder roll back on his feet. Aang then sent a series of airwaves towards Shredder, but he moved with such speed that he was able to avoid them all, much to Aang's shock. Before he knew it, Shredder was right in front of Aang. He brought his claws down onto Aang's chest, knocking him back. Aang grunted as he got back up, but held his wound and could see 2 long tears in his shirt, as well as 2 bleeding cuts on his chest. He could only look in fear at the bladed monster slowly approaching him with deadly intent. Boss Sing Se Dungeon. Casey and the Earth King were both being held in a single cell with 2-foot ninja guarding it. The Earth King seemed quite depressed at the situation. "What are we going to do now?" he questioned. Casey soon had a smile on his face. "Don't worry, Your Majesty. I have a plan." Casey walked up to the door. "Hey, foot dumbasses. Why don't you come in here and I make you my pretty little girlfriends? You'll have to shower for weeks. But you'll never get the smell of you." That made the ninja quite angry as they both opened the door to teach Casey a lesson, only for Casey to punch one hard in the jaw, knocking him out. Casey then grabbed the other's head and slammed it against the wall. He then picked up a few smoke bombs from the ninjas' unconscious bodies as they might come in handy. Casey then motioned to the open door. "After you, Your Majesty. I'm not leaving without Bosco." "Oh, for the love of," Casey breathed as he held his face. Catacombs. The warzone erupted into what could only be described as a warzone. The Ninja Turtles as well as Team Avatar locked in mortal combat with the Shredder and his Foot Clan, with some allies as well. Sokka was stuck on the defensive end, using his machete to defend against the relentless assault from the elite ninja with the axe. Sokka couldn't find one single opening to attack. When the elite ninja locked his axe with Sokka's machete, Sokka tried to kick him, only for the elite to swipe him off his feet. He almost brought the axe down onto Sokka, only for Sokka to roll out of the way. Once he was far enough away, he threw his boomerang towards the elite, which clearly missed. The elite slowly approached him, but Sokka looked to see the boomerang coming back towards the elite, but could only look in absolute shock at what came next. The elite ninja used his axe to bat away the incoming boomerang. Sokka then quickly ran underneath the elite and picked up his boomerang. No. But, boomerang never fails me. Sokka looked in the reflection of his beloved weapon to see an axe coming down towards him, forcing Sokka to block it by crossing his axe and machete together. Don continued to block the assault from the elite wielding the spear. He jumped backwards over the stream and the ninja followed by jumping straight after him. Don ducked underneath one horizontal slice and rolled behind him to quickly smack the elite in the back with his staff, only for the elite to roll back on his feet and twirl the spear. Don then pole vaulted to the elite, planting both his feet onto his chest, knocking him down, but the elite got back up to thrust his spear forward, only for Don to block it with the middle of his staff. Meanwhile, Mikey rolled back to avoid a series of slices from the elite wielding the double-bladed sword. Mikey caught one end of the weapon in his right nunchuck and tried to attack with his left one, only for the elite to swerve back to the side and avoid it. The elite then kicked Mikey in the abs, causing him to roll back. Mikey jumped backwards out of the way to avoid the impalement of the double-bladed sword, which stuck into the ground. No one said this was gonna be easy. Mikey said as he charged forward, this time going on the offensive. Raph was also busy dancing with his foot elite, who was wielding the trident. He performed multiple jabs with the trident, forcing Raph to swerve around each jab. Raph then jumped upward and fell down, forward, only for the elite to block the attack with the stick part of the spear. Raph then curved his feet downward to plant a good solid kick in the head of his elite, knocking him into the stream. Toph was tossed back through an entire pillar and skidded to a half with earthbending. She whipped some blood from her mouth as she felt Hun roaring towards her. Toph created some armor by magnetizing rocks all over her body. She propelled herself forward and slammed Hun in the gut with her rock-covered fists. While Hun spat out some blood, he grinned as he grabbed Toph's armored body and slammed her into the ground, loosing her armor. Hun reeled back one of his gauntlets to punch the armor completely off Toph. Say good night, you little brat. Hun was about to finish her off, only for Raph to jump in and plant his feet on his chest, knocking Hun down. Raph stood on top of Hun's chest as he glared at him. Hun, never, ever, threaten her. Raph told him as Hun tried to punch Raph off, only for the red-clad turtle to jump back. Hun got up on his feet, only for Raph to perform a bicycle kick to the jaw, knocking Hun back. Raph helped Toph up. You okay, kid? I'll live, Toph replied. They both turned to see Hun get back up, looking quite angry. Kid, what do you say we take em together? Raph offered. Thought you never asked. Toph replied with a grin. They both motioned with their hands for Hun to bring it on. Hun responded by clashing his gauntlet's knuckles again and charging straight at the pair. Katara meanwhile found herself on the defensive end with Karai. Despite not being a bender, she was more than capable of holding her own against the waterbender. Katara enveloped her arms in water tentacles from the stream behind her and shot her left tentacle towards Karai, which she used one of her katanas to slice through. The severed end fell to the floor in a heap. Karai rushed to Katara. Thinking quick, Katara shortened her water tentacles to form ice blades in her arms and block Karai's blades. But Karai had swept Katara off her feet and Karai pointed a sword near her face. Surrender, and no harm shall come to you. Karai told her. Katara just glared as she used her waterbending to bring multiple water droplets towards Karai from the back, which took the form of ice shards, which Karai sliced through with her swords, but Katara used this to jump over the stream. I do not wish to harm you. Karai tried. Your skill with the use of water is most impressive, but you cannot defeat me. Try telling it to someone else, sword lady. Katara responded by brining a ball of water forward and sending more ice shards Karai's way, forcing her to jump back. Karai sheathed her right katana and drew a long chain, which she threw at Katara, tying her up in it. Karai pulled Katara over the stream and towards her. Karai put her in an arm lock. There is no point in continuing any further. Karai persisted, but Katara used some of the water around her body to explode out of the chain and escape Karai's grip. I will never surrender, Katara exclaimed. I don't understand, Karai said. This is war, you are a child. Children do not belong in war, you need not involve yourself in such a bloody conflict. You think I want to fight? Katara angrily exclaimed. The Fire Nation has plagued this planet for 100 years. Innocent people are dying. I don't want this war to continue. Then why involve yourself in it? Karai questioned. I understand your mother, but... How dare you? Katara interrupted. How dare you even mention my mother? Katara angrily threw out a massive water wave towards Karai, forcing her to jump through it and slice her own way through with her katana blades. You guys are just like the Fire Nation, spreading death and destruction and hate everywhere. I am not loyal to the Fire Nation. Karai responded. I am only loyal to my father. Katara found herself shocked at that. That, Shredder guy, is your father? Yes, Karai replied. Could you so easily turn away from your father? What are you trying to say? What do you want? Katara questioned. It's obvious you care for the Avatar. Karai began. As I said, children do not belong in war. I can convince my father to spare the Avatar if he surrenders, as well as the turtles. As for you and your friends, if you leave Ba Sing Se now, the foot will not come after you. They won't concern themselves with children if they no longer involve themselves. Leave now, this will be your only chance. I will never do that. Katara replied. I'll never leave Aang's side. I won't leave the turtles either after all they've done for us. They won't give up and surrender to the likes of you, and neither will I. I see. Karai looked somewhat regretful. I am sorry, but I am honor-bound to serve my father, and defeat you. Karai rushed forward with her blades as Katara reformed some ice blades and locked her weapons with Karai's. Leo jumped and avoided a fireball from Zuko. When Leo charged forward with the hook swords, Zuko clashed with his Dao blades. Once Zuko lit his own swords on fire, he was able to slice through Jet's hook swords, much to Leo's shock. Leo jumped back and discarded the handles of the broken swords to draw his katanas. Your uncle spoke so highly of you, Zuko. Leo tried. He said there was good in you. He said that you could change, that you understand honor. What do you know? Zuko questioned as he swung his flaming blades outward, sending 6 fire missiles towards Leo. Leo sliced through the center 2 and jumped through the gap he made to avoid the remaining 4 as they exploded behind him. I was tough. That honor, Bushido, means everything to a true warrior. Leo went on the offensive and sliced with such force it knocked Zuko's swords out of his hands. Zuko jumped back and sent multiple fire fists towards Leo, forcing him to cartwheel backwards and avoid them all. Leo landed behind a pillar and saw a fireball coming towards him, but he jumped up and landed in front just before it exploded on the pillar. But if you serve someone like the Shredder or the Fire Lord, then you have no honor. Leo told Zuko. This made Zuko quite angry as he furiously created 2 fire whips in his arms and flung them towards Leo. Leo ducked under one and sliced through it. He got closer and blocked each snap and strike with his katanas and got close enough to Zuko to get a good kick in the chin, knocking Zuko back. But it's not too late. Leo tried. You don't have to serve the Shredder or the Fire Lord. I can see that there is good in you, Zuko. Help us. Leo sheathed his swords and even offered Zuko a hand, much to his surprise. Zuko looked shocked and considered taking it, but he remembered what Shredder told him. So with a pained look, he shot a fire fist forward, forcing Leo back. Leo saw the look on Zuko's face. I don't want to do this, but I have no choice. Zuko said. Leo had a good guess what it was that was bothering him. This isn't some inner conflict thing, is it? What does Shredder have on you? If he's trying something, we can help you. No, you can't. No one can. Zuko said. I'm sorry, but I have to do this. Zuko threw more fire fists towards Leo, forcing him to draw his katanas and block the strikes again. Azula found herself in a heated duel as well, only she was on the defensive end. She flung a fire dagger towards Splinter, but he shoved it away with his right hand and grabbed her wrist and flung her over his shoulder, but she landed gracefully on her feet. Azula erected 2 long blue fire whips around her arms and snapped them forward, but Splinter avoided each attack with such grace and agility, It was very frustrating for Azula, she could not land so much as a single hit. Splinter went on the offensive and delivered multiple quick jabs to her chest, knocking the wind out of her and forcing her back into the stream. She got up on her feet in the water and took multiple deep breaths. I advise you to surrender, and I promise, no harm shall come to you. Splinter said. What is this? Azula questioned. It is a chance for you to walk away right now. Splinter told her. You are ruthless and conniving, but you are still just a child. One I believe to be more misguided than truly evil. You sound just like my uncle, Rodent. Azula told him. So much talk, so annoying. And yet, you are the one who is losing. Splinter stated. This angered Azula enough to send a plume of blue fire towards him, only for Splinter to jump over it and land behind Azula. She tried to whip an attack at him, but he grabbed her wrist and used his staff to pin her arm behind her back, rather painfully. Even if you do not want to hear what I have to say, take this to heart. If you trust the Shredder, you will regret it. Splinter warned. Thanks for the warning, now keep your mercy to yourself, rat. Azula shot blue fire from her feet to force Splinter off of her, causing him to jump away. Aang found himself in his own heated battle against the Shredder, one that he was lucky just to be alive up till this point. Shredder was much faster and stronger than any opponent he'd ever faced before. Even more than Azula. Aang tried to attack Shredder by sending multiple rocks in his direction, but Shredder sliced and broke through each one. Not one successive damaging attack had been made at this point. Plus the large cut on Aang's chest didn't help either. Aang tried to run on an air scooter to put himself at a distance from Shredder. He pulled water out of the nearby stream and sent it directly towards Shredder, scoring a direct hit and slamming him into the wall onto the far side. Aang air scootered towards the location to see if Shredder was down. He saw a pile of rocks, with no apparent sign of activity. Aang breathed a sigh of relief. 2 seconds later, a clawed gauntlet burst from the rubble and grabbed Aang by the throat. Stupid boy, never let your guard down in front of an enemy. Shredder said as he punched Aang hard in the gut, forcing him to cough up blood. Shredder then gave a hard kick to knock Aang back several feet. Aang felt his side as that kick cracked a few ribs. He could only look in fear as Shredder slowly approached him. Why? Why are you doing this? Aang asked. Why are you helping the Fire Nation? Why are we fighting? What did I ever do to you? Ignorant child. Shredder slammed his foot hard on Aang, pinning him to the ground. I do not serve those ignorant fools in that backwater country. They are my pawns. As for you, you are an ally of the turtles, and therefore, an enemy to me. Shredder picked Aang up by the shirt and brought him close to his face. Even so, even if you never met them, you would likely interfere in the plans I have for this world. Those that are not with me are against me, and I crush anyone who stands against me. Shredder pulled a fist back and punched Aang hard in the face, knocking him back. Aang then coated himself in crystal armor and charged towards Shredder. Aang tried to punch him, but Shredder avoided the attack and proceeded to attack Aang with several punches and kicks, actually cracking the armor. One large diagonal slice from his claws cut Aang away from his armor. Aang rolled back and used what strength he had to shoot multiple streams of air and water as well as several rocks at Shredder. He took all the impacts, which knocked the evil ninjutsu master back, but Shredder with inhuman reflexes grabbed one large rock coming towards him and used the momentum to fling it back at Aang, much to the Avatar's shock. It scored a direct hit and sent Aang flying hard against a wall, leaving a huge impression on it. Earth King's throne room. Mai sat nonchalantly on the stairs leading up to the throne while Ty Lee was spending time with Bosco. Stockman was also present, though he was just standing with his arms crossed. Come on, it's easy. Ty Lee told Bosco. You just walk on your front paws instead of your rear ones, like this. Ty Lee began to walk on her hands. Stockman sighed. All my genius and I'm stuck babysitting. His rant was interrupted by a smoke bomb to roll in front of Ty Lee, creating a smoke cloud. Ty Lee stood on her feet again as she coughed, but Casey in his hockey mask came around Ty Lee and wrapped his arm around her throat. Hey, that is a nice trick. Casey complimented before he put Ty Lee in a sleeper hold to knock her out. Before Stockman could react, Casey came in and knocked the robotic scientist off his feet with a powerful elbow. Casey turned to Mai and drew his hockey stick. Just take the bear, Mai said. Bosco. The Earth King happily exclaimed as he hugged his beloved bear. Catacombs. Aang was picked up by Shredder, only for the Avatar to launch an earth column below him to knock himself into the air. Once Aang saw Shredder was coming towards him, fear took form in him as Aang used airbending at Shredder, not just to keep him away, but to get away. Aang fell more towards the center of the massive chambers, while all the other battles continued to intensify. Aang was on his knees as he breathed heavily, his clothes were battered and torn, there was a long bleeding cut on his chest, and at least 2 of his ribs were cracked. He even felt a bit of blood trickle down his face as there was a slight cut on his forehead, and he even coughed up some blood as well. So strong, Aang breathed. So fast, I can't beat him. Shredder picked Aang up once again. This is all you have? Shredder questioned. Truly pathetic. Shredder pulled back a palm strike, and delivered it hard to Aang's left elbow, completely dislocating his entire left arm. Aang's painful scream would echo throughout the entire chamber, getting the attention of everyone, all of Aang's friends. Even Iroh and Zuko looked in shock and terror at seeing Aang like this, especially Katara. Shredder was pulling back his claws. No! Katara screamed as she created an ice ramp to sail past Iroh and straight for Shredder. She formed a water whip in her right arm and slammed Shredder with it, forcing him back a few steps and forcing him to drop Aang. Shredder now had his attention focused on this girl. Katara pulled tons of water from the stream and sent it straight at Shredder, but he simply sliced through it with his claws, much to her shock. Before she knew it, Shredder was right in front of her. He slammed his knee into her gut, knocking all the wind right out of her. Back off, metalhead. Shredder heard a voice say as multiple boulders hit Shredder hard, forcing him to drop Katara. Toph then shot an earth column towards Shredder, only for him to run right on straight towards her. She fell back just in time to avoid a claw strike. She then used earthbending to sink Shredder's feet into the ground. While he was stuck, she jumped behind him and tried to punch his armor with metal bending, but once her fist connected, all she could feel was pain. Ow! What the hell? Toph screamed as she held her aching fist. She heard Shredder step out of her trap. What the shell is that armor made of? Toph questioned. But she didn't get an answer as Shredder planted multiple punches onto Toph, and one hard kick to her face sent her flying. Shredder then heard a high-pitched yell as Sokka tried to come in from behind, but Shredder swerved out of the way and he simply slapped Sokka back with the back of his hand. Shredder then saw multiple ice spikes heading his direction, but he crossed his arms to brace himself. Shredder then ran towards Katara as she desperately shot multiple ice discs towards Shredder. She couldn't believe this. Just how much punishment can this guy take? She tried to fling a water whip at him, but he curved under it and punched her in the jaw, knocking her down. He grabbed her by the hair and pulled her, causing her to scream. Foolish girl, you are nothing to me. Shredder pulled his claws back, ready to end her. Katara could only look in dread as tears of fear formed in her eyes. No. Splinter gave a hard and powerful kick to Shredder's chest, forcing him to drop Katara. You raise your arms against children. You have no honor. I fight to win, rat. Shredder told him. The two hated enemies glared before they engaged each other in combat. They both moved with equal speed. Splinter blocked and parried many of Shredder's clawed strikes with his cane and palms. Splinter gave a kick to Shredder, which he swerved to avoid as Shredder tried to bring his elbow down onto Splinter, but the rat caught it and used the momentum to flip Shredder over. Splinter went on the offensive with multiple strikes towards Shredder, but he was able to avoid or parry each and every one of them. Master Splinter! Leo exclaimed as he, Raph, Don, and Mikey all got together. We have to help him. Mikey exclaimed too. Don looked up towards the side. Guys, we got more company. Coming out holes in the sides of the massive chamber were more and more foot ninja. There were at least 5 dozen more as they quickly came to their master's aid. Are you freaking kidding me? Raph exclaimed as a large portion of the foot ninjas surrounded the turtles. Sokka and Toph found themselves back to back as several other foot ninjas surrounded them. Katara got up with loose hair to see she was surrounded by at least 10 foot ninja herself. Not willing to give up, she created a series of water tentacles to surround her. Aang struggled to get as he held his dislocated arm. He looked at what was going on. He saw the elite ninja, Hun, Iroh, Zuko, and Azula all approaching towards him. Aang looked to see Shredder and Splinter fighting and they seemed to be evenly matched. Aang saw the turtles having trouble against the many foot ninja coming their way as well as Toph and Sokka. Aang looked towards Katara, who was also surrounded. There's too many, he said to himself. The only way is to let her go. Aang realized he had no other choice. I'm sorry, Katara. He created a crystal dome around himself and sat in a meditative position, with his left and dislocated arm dangling. His only option now was to open the last chakra, which meant he had to let Katara go. While he meditated, he once again found himself on the astral path towards a massive transparent figure of himself with a glowing purple sphere in its hands. Aang entered the sphere and allowed the energy to wash all over him. Aang's arrows began to glow as a white light shined through the crystals. This caught the attention of Splinter, Katara, Leo, Zuko, Raph, Dawn, Mikey, Karai, Azula, Toph, Sokka, Hun, Shredder, the elite ninja, and all the foot ninja. All the fights stopped to see this. Though Splinter used this momentary distraction to leap towards his sons, who couldn't take their eyes off this. Aang, Leo spoke to himself. You're doing it, aren't you? You're opening the last chakra. Aang's eyes shot open to reveal white light. A massive wave of white energy blew away the crystal dome. It was so powerful that it blew away Zuko, Azula, Karai, Hun, all the elite ninja, and several foot ninja even. Avatar Aang hovered just a few feet off the ground in a beam of white light. Many of the foot ninjas slowly backed away at the sight of this, even Hun could only look in complete and utter surprise. Ah yeah, Sokka cheered. Go Aang, take these guys down. Show them what for Twinkle Toes. Toph cheered as well. Kick their shells, kid. Raph cheered as well. So cool, Mikey breathed at seeing Aang like this. Amazing. Dawn breathed as well. Karai could only look with her mouth hung open and wide eyes. She dropped her katanas in disbelief. This is the power of the Avatar. Splinter smiled, as did Leo. Katara looked towards Aang with a hopeful smile as well. Leo, however, saw something that could only make him look in absolute dread. Aang, behind you. But it was too late. A pair of metal claws pierced through Aang's chest, right through his heart. Aang's body exploded in shock as his entire avatar spirit had been pierced. Shredder had stabbed Aang in the back. On the spirit plane, the spiritual avatar fell limp and the sphere of energy died, allowing Aang's spirit to fall to the earth. Aang's body went limp in Shredder's claws. With a powerful heave, Shredder threw Aang with such force it sent him flying. All eyes were widened with shock at what just happened. Leo, Splinter, Toph, Sokka, Raph, Mikey, even Zuko and Karai could only look in horror at this. Even Azula was taken aback by this act. Katara's eyes watered as tears fell from them. She created a tidal wave and soared over to where Aang was being tossed. She washed over several foot ninja as she caught Aang in her arms. Leo, Splinter, Toph, Dawn, Raph, Mikey, and Sokka all rushed to them. Aang, most of them said. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. Sokka repeated. Twinkle Toes. Toph breathed, as she couldn't sense his heartbeat. Aang, Splinter breathed as his own eyes quivered. Katara put her hands on Aang's bleeding chest wound. Aang, please. Please wake up. Please. No, this can't be. Leo breathed. Tell me this isn't happening. Mikey whimpered. I wish I could, Mikey, I wish I could. Dawn said. Aang, kid, don't do this. Raph exclaimed. Aang, U-G-H-H-H-H. Raph screamed in despair. No. Aang. A-A-A-A-A-A-N-N-N-G-G-G. Katara screamed as she held his body and cried. Karai saw all this and couldn't believe what she just saw. A child. Her father had killed a 12-year-old child. Zuko had an equally shocked expression as well. Hun merely smirked at this, whereas Azula's expression remained mostly neutral. An evil laugh caught everyone's attention. This was the laugh of Shredder as he raised his claws covered in Aang's blood. He gave a laugh that would scar every single hero there. Shredder, Leo growled as anger seeped in him. He clenched his fists so they might even bleed. You monster. Katara shrieked at him with anger-filled teary eyes. I have known many monsters, Shredder. Splinter stated to him with equally angry eyes. But it takes a special breed to take the life of an innocent child. Ignorant fools, all those who dare oppose the Shredder are fated to perish. Shredder stated. But do not worry, you will all reunite with him soon enough. Shredder, as well as Hun, Azula, and his elite ninja, and a few foot soldiers, all slowly approached the group. Toph growled as tears fell from her dull eyes as she stood with the equally rage-filled Raph. Bring it on, they both said at the same time. Before anything can start, a firewall separated the villains from the wounded heroes. This wall was from Iroh, who jumped down to face the foot. You have to get out of here. I'll hold them off for as long as I can, Iroh told the group as he erected a firewall to separate himself from the heroes. He shoot multiple fire fists towards the enemies. What are we waiting for? Let's help him out. Raph was about to charge, but Don held him back. Raph, we can't fight anymore, Don stated. We're not running from this monster, Toph stated, but Mikey held her back. Toph, you wanna get killed? Mikey questioned. They're right. We need to go now, Sokka said. Everyone listen, Splinter told the group. Iroh has given us a chance to flee, we must not dishonor his brave sacrifice. What about Aang? The teary-eyed Katara asked as she held his limp body. Splinter's right, Leo agreed. If there's any chance we can save him, we need to leave right now. They all sighed and agreed as most ran towards a nearby waterfall. Leo glanced back towards Shredder. You'll get yours, Shredder. That's a promise. You'll get yours. Leo joined with the rest of the group by a waterfall. Katara used her waterbending to propel herself upwards with Aang in her arms. Toph erected a large platform with herself, Leo, Raph, Sokka, Mikey, Don, and Master Splinter on top as they rode alongside Katara and out of the catacombs. Once Iroh saw that everyone was safe, he stopped fighting, letting the elite ninja come in and point all their weapons towards him. Zuko couldn't even face his uncle with what he had done. Karai looked towards Zuko and noticed the pained expression on his face. She then looked in the direction where the turtles and the gong fled, but all she could do now was look down in shame. Foot ninja. After them, Shredder ordered. Do not allow them to escape. With that, the foot soldiers all left the catacombs in search for the wounded heroes to finish them off. The foot would never reach them as the heroes, Leo, Katara, Raph, Toph, Casey, Mikey, Sokka, Don, Master Splinter, the Earth King, Bosco, and Momo, all rode on top the bison and as far out of Ba Sing Se as possible as night had fallen. Most were on top of Appa's back while Leo and Katara sat with the stabbed Aang on Appa's head. Leo held Aang as Katara pulled out her vial from the North Pole. She used her waterbending to pull out the spirit water, which had a glow to it. She slowly placed it on the opening in Aang's chest and let the glowing water seep into his body. At first, there was nothing. Katara cried as she held Aang's body, with Leo putting a comforting hand on her shoulder. Aang's tattoos briefly glowed before he slightly groaned, catching everyone's attention. Leo and Katara looked with smiles to see a faint smile from Aang before he finally fell unconscious. Leo took of the Avatar's shirt to see that while there is a permanent scar there, the wound is closed. He's going to be alright, Leo told the group, causing everyone to breathe a huge sigh of relief. Earth King's throne room. Azula sat in the throne of the Earth King, with Zuko by her side. We've done it, Zuko. It's taken 100 years, but the Fire Nation has finally conquered Ba Sing Se. I betrayed Uncle, Zuko said, not facing his sister. No, he betrayed you, she told him. Zuko, when you return home, Father will welcome you home as a war hero. Zuko could tell that Azula didn't know about Shredder blackmailing him earlier, which was the only reason he helped them. Leo's words rang through his head. If you serve someone like the Shredder or the Fire Lord, then you have no honor. But, the Foot, are you certain we can trust them? I believe so, Azula told him. I admit that they're intimidating to say the least, but without their help, we could never have conquered Ba Sing Se. Got that right, Princess, Hun said as he walked in with Karai, as well as Shredder. Zuko, right, he nodded. Nice scar, I got one too, see. Hun pointed to the clawed scar on the side of his chin. Fire Prince Zuko, Shredder told him. I am glad you made the right choice. The right choice? Karai questioned. Father, is any of this right? Aang's body hanging from her father's claws was still fresh in her memory as she looked down. A foot ninja walked into the throne room and bowed to Shredder. Master, the turtles and their allies have escaped with the Earth King. Disappointing, Shredder stated. However, we have entire kingdom in our grasp now. The turtles are little more than annoyances at this point. However, Master, the ninja spoke up, we did manage to find this after raiding their living quarters. He presented a certain staff to Shredder, which he took. He shifted it in a way so that orange wings would appear. "What the heck is that?" Hun questioned. "I've seen it before," Azula replied. "That's the Avatar's glider. He used his airbending to control it." Shredder took the moment to observe it before raising it above his head and snapping it in two with his bare hands, much to the surprise of Iroh and Zuko. "Leave the palace," Shredder ordered. "I beg your pardon," Azula questioned. "I said, leave, now," Shredder ordered. Azula sighed as she, Hun, Iroh, the ninja, as well as Zuko begin to walk out. Zuko shot a glare towards Shredder before walking away. Once he was alone, Shredder walked up to the throne of the Earth King. He pulled out a small black and yellow device. He pressed a button on it, causing it to spark. Shredder then tossed it on the ground behind him as the device exploded and began to set the throne room ablaze. He turned back to the throne. "Like the phoenix, I have risen from the ashes." He sliced the throne, causing it to fall to pieces. He then began to walk away. "And into my fire, this world shall fall." Shredder left the throne room, intent on letting the palace burn to the ground. The group could only look back at Ba Sing Se in grief as they all flew away from it. "The Earth Kingdom has fallen," the Earth King said as the group let despair fall over them. "It has," Leo confirmed, "but not to the Fire Nation, to someone far, far worse." Appa flew the group past the walls and into the night as lightning flashed. Despite being miles away from him, they could all still hear Shredder's evil laugh echo throughout the night sky. Chapter 14, The Awakening. Total darkness. Avatar Aang stood in total darkness, the only light came from his glowing tattoos as the young monk was in the Avatar state. It wasn't long before he was surrounded by many enemies, Fire Nation soldiers, Dai Li agents, and foot ninja. They all leapt forward, Aang attacked with every element at his disposal. He sent blades of air, streams of fire, columns of earth, and whips of water forward in all directions. Every time an attack made contact with an enemy, the enemy vanished into thin air. The Avatar was once more surrounded in darkness as all his enemies were now apparently gone. The Avatar looked down to see the floor was silver, but the floor began to shake and rise and large fingers began to bend slightly. That's when the Avatar realized he was standing in the palm of someone. He looked up to the side to realize he was in the hand of the Shredder. Shredder gave an evil laugh as his red eyes pierced into the Avatar's soul. Aang's eyes slowly opened. His vision blurred and he felt his body was in a mixture of pain and numbness, likely from being out for so long. While he failed to notice the short amount of black hair on his head, he did take into account the amount of bandages he was covered in. As he sat up and held his head he could only wonder what had happened while he was out. What happened? Aang looked around and saw he was in a metal room and could only gasp at the sight of red and black banners and a large flag with the Fire Nation insignia behind him. "Oh no. Good, I see you're awake." A female voice spoke out as the door opened. A woman entered carrying a tray of food. "I brought some." The woman couldn't finish her sentence as Aang sent a gust of wind forward that caused the woman to fly back to the metal wall, and she fell unconscious. Aang tried to stand up, but his body still ached. He grabbed a metal pole nearby to support himself. He got a good look at this woman while she was out. She had red hair, tied back in a ponytail. While she did wear a red Fire Nation cloak, underneath she had a purple shirt and brown cargo pants. Aang didn't have time to wonder who this woman was, all he knew was he had to get out. Aang slowly peered out the steel door and into the hallway. He saw it was clear and began to make his way out, while carrying a metal pole to support his still injured body. "You hear something?" Aang looked around the corner to see a large man, and a very short one, both clad in Fire Nation armor. He hid around the corner to avoid being seen until he sent a gust of wind forward with a swipe of his pole and began to make a run for it. "He's awake," the large man said as he and the shorter man began to chase the confused and injured Avatar. "Stop. Wait." Aang tried to make it up the stairs and onto the deck, but he tripped and fell on the metal floor, his pole sliding to an odd sight, Momo being fed by 3 men in Fire Nation outfits. Momo. The confused Aang wondered. The lemur and 3 men, who were revealed to be Casey Jones, Hakoda, and Bato, all turned their attention towards the Avatar as Momo ran up his shoulder and began to lick his face. "Aang," Leo stated as he, Toph, and Katara turned their attention towards the Avatar. "Twinkle toes. That's gotta be you." The two as well as others including the other turtles and Master Splinter all gathered around the confused avatar. Aang, you're awake, Katara observed. About time, Raph stated. We were all pretty worried. Don said as well. Guys, I feel like I'm dreaming. Aang uttered but Katara embraced him in a large hug. You're not dreaming, you're finally awake. Good to have you back kid. Casey commented as he put a hand on his shoulder. Welcome back bro. Mikey exclaimed as he gave a brotherly hug as well. Aang, good to see you back with the living buddy. A familiar voice in full Fire Nation armor told him. Sokka, Aang uttered. Welcome back, Avatar. Master Splinter greeted with a bow. I can see our guest has fully awoken, wonderful. A new voice spoke out. Aang looked to the back of the crowd to see a large, humanoid crocodile approach him. That did it, Aang felt woozy as he began to lose his balance. Uh-oh. Toph said. Somebody catch him he's gonna. Aang fell backwards, but Leo caught him by the shoulders before he hit the ground. Faint. Don't worry Aang, you're safe. We're all friends here, Leo told the ailing avatar, as the heroes sailed away onboard the stolen Fire Nation ship. Meanwhile, on the Royal Fire Nation ship, which also carried a few of the Foot Ninja, and some of their leadership, sailed back to the Fire Nation mainland. The formerly exiled Prince Zuko held the railing of the ship as he looked up towards the full moon. Aren't you cold? Mai asked as she joined him. I've got a lot on my mind. Zuko began. It's been so long, over 3 years since I was home. I wonder what's changed. I wonder how I've changed. Mai gave a slight yawn. I just asked if you were cold, I didn't ask for your whole life story. She draped an arm over his shoulder and lightly took his chin. Stop worrying, she said with a smile before she kissed him. After about a minute, she left him alone with his thoughts. Zuko remembered the threat Shredder gave him if he didn't work with him. The threat to kill everyone he knew if he didn't help. Zuko had no choice in Ba Sing Se. He was wondering if he ever had a choice in his life to begin with. You seem troubled. Zuko looked behind him to see Karai, he simply looked away. I can see there is much weight on your shoulders, a burden that you have to bear. Karai observed. You're pretty observant, what do you want? Zuko questioned the swordswoman. I do not desire anything from you. Karai assured. I am merely asking if something is bothering you. Zuko didn't give an answer. Karai could tell that while many individuals from the Fire Nation she had met so far may be cruel, but there was something about this prince that was different, he reminded her of herself a little. It is all right, you do not need to tell me if you do not want to. Karai offered a hand to shake. My name is Karai. Zuko gave a slight smile as he shook her hand. Zuko. Aang was handed a cloak by Master Splinter as the Rat Master sat with him along with Leo and Katara, and Appa nearby. Why are we on a Fire Nation ship? Why is everyone dressed this way? And why am I the only one who's completely out of it? Take it easy Aang, Leo told him. You've been out for a while, a lot has happened. Leo's right. Katara agreed. You were hurt pretty badly. She gave a slight smile. I like your hair. Leo and Splinter gave slight grins, but Aang found himself quite shocked. I have hair. He felt along his head. How long was I out? 3 weeks and 5 days by my calculations young one. The giant crocodiles revealed as he walked onto the scene. Aang stumbled back at the mutant's appearance. Aang, it's alright, he's friend. Leo told him. He is indeed, he helped to care for you during your time in rest. Splinter added. You can trust him. Aang took a slight breath. Sorry for freaking out. No need to apologize. My unusual appearance has that effect on people. Allow me to properly introduce myself, I am Leatherhead. Aang gave a friendly smile. Nice to meet you Leatherhead, I'm Aang. He offered his hand, which the gentle giant shook. Yes young avatar, my friends have told me much about you. Leatherhead replied, gesturing to Leo and Splinter. Well, any friend of the turtles is a friend of mine. Aang said, earning a smile from the mutant crocodile. Everything okay here? Hakoda asked as he approached the group. We're fine Dad, Katara said with a slight scowl. I'm Hakoda. He introduced himself to Aang. Katara and Sokka's father. He knows who you are, I just called you, Dad, didn't I? Katara interrupted, earning a few looks from Leo, Aang, and Splinter. I guess you're right, Hakoda said. Aang still shook the water chieftain's hand. Nice to officially meet you Chief Hakoda. It's an honor to meet you. Great, great. Now you guys have met, so would you mind giving us a little privacy? Katara rudely asked. Of course. Hakoda replied. Leatherhead's hand fell on the water chieftain's shoulder. My friend, there is something I could use your help with. Leatherhead told him as the two walked off. Master Splinter joined them as well. Katara, what was that about? Leo asked her as the three walked away. Are you mad at your dad or something? Aang asked as well. What? Not at all, why would you guys say that? Katara asked. Aang shrugged while Leo just looked unconvinced by her statement. Aang's side ached as he held his body. Take it easy there. The same woman from before told him as she walked onto the scene. Aang, this is a good friend of ours, April O'Neil. April, this is Aang. Leo introduced. Oh, believe me, we've met already. April tossed a slight glare to Aang as she rubbed the back of her sore head. Aang gave a nervous chuckle as Leo and Katara looked towards him. I thought she was Fire Nation, so I, sorta, knocked her out. Leo and Katara grimaced at that before Aang turned back to the older woman. Sorry about that. April gave an amused look. Don't worry kiddo, not the worst reaction I've gotten. April's been helping to take care of you too. Leo told her. That is whenever Katara wasn't. Aang's side still ached. Maybe we should go upstairs. You need a healing session. April and Katara helped Aang to his feet and Leo followed them behind. The four were back in the same room Aang had woken up. The bandages were removed from his body and they could clearly see the 2 claw marks in his back of where he was stabbed. Broken ribs, dislocated arm, twisted ankle, some internal bleeding. April listed Aang's injuries from Ba Sing Se. It's a miracle you didn't die. It felt like I did. Aang whispered as Katara brought some healing water onto his back. Tell me where your pain feels most intense. She told him. Aang grimaced a bit. A little higher. Katara moved the water higher slightly towards his scar. His mind flashed back to his moment in the avatar state in Ba Sing Se. Wow, you're definitely in the right area there. I can feel a lot of energy twisted up around there. Katara observed. She began to pull the water back. Let me see if I can just. Aang's body arched back a bit, startling Leo, Katara, and April as his mind flashed back. Aang remembered steel claws piercing through his heart, Shredder stabbing him in the back. Aang remembered the evil in his red eyes before he came back to reality. Aang, Leo asked. I went down. I didn't just get hurt, did I? It was worse than that. Aang remembered. You were stabbed right through the heart, Aang. Leo said. That should have been a death sentence right there. But Katara healed you. Aang looked to the waterbender. I just used the spirit water from the North Pole. I don't know what I did exactly. You saved me. Hey Katara, can I talk to you for a second? April told her, who nodded as the 2 girls left, leaving Aang and Leo alone. Leo. Aang, I understand you probably have a lot of questions. Leo began. But they will be answered tomorrow, once you have regained part of your strength. Aang looked down a bit in understanding. Leo handed him a bowl of soup. Here, you need to eat. Aang took the soup and began to eat. Once outside, Katara and April began to talk. You're mad at your dad. April said out of the blue. What? Why would you? Katara tried. I've been on this boat with you for a month, I'm not oblivious. April told her. She put a hand on the younger girl's shoulder. Listen, whatever it is, maybe you should just go right out and say it instead of bottling it up inside. Trust me, that never works out for anyone. Katara looked down slightly, letting April's words sink in. Fire Nation capital. It was morning in the Fire Nation. There was a massive tower that overlooked all the soldiers of the Fire Nation, who were being addressed by the 2 elderly twins Lo and Li. Your Princess Azula, clever and beautiful, disguised herself as the enemy and entered the Earth Kingdom's capital. Lo exclaimed. In Ba Sing Se she found her brother Zuko, as well as our newest and greatest ally, the Foot Clan. Li exclaimed as well. And together, through the union of the Fire Nation and the Foot, they faced the Avatar. And the Avatar fell. And the Earth Kingdom fell. Lo and Li exclaimed at the same time. The Nexus portal opened as countless foot soldiers, vehicles, and equipment left the portal and entered the world of the 4 nations. The army of the Foot met up with an army of Fire Nation soldiers. War Minister Chin of the Fire Nation, as well as a Foot elite both met and the 2 shook hands. 3-foot elite stood at the inside of the wall in Ba Sing Se as several foot ninja lined the walls with C4. The agents of the foot quickly overtook the entire city. They went to Ba Sing Se's great walls and brought them down. One elite ninja pressed a trigger, and the C4 detonated, brining down a massive hole in the wall surrounding the city. Armies of the Fire Nation and the Foot together overtook Ba Sing Se with no effort. The Fire Nation soldiers marched through the streets, while countless Foot ninja ran across the rooftops. The armies of the Fire Nation and the Foot clan surged through the walls and swarmed over Ba Sing Se, securing our victory. Several Fire Nation tanks surrounded the burnt-down ruins of the Earth Kingdom Palace, with one foot truck at the lead. Baxter Stockman looked towards the ruins of the palace and gave an evil smile. Now the heroes have returned home. Lo and Lee announced. Your Princess Azula. Lo announced as the Fire Princess walked onto the balcony, resulting in a massive uproar of the soldiers below. And after 3 long years, your prince has returned. Zuko. Lee announced as well as Prince Zuko joined his sister and the soldiers cheered for him, though Zuko didn't have a look of joy on his face. And now we welcome our newest allies, the Foot Clan. Lo announced as Hun and Karai both walked onto the balcony. Hun had a large grin on his face, while Karai maintained a stoic look. Drawn quite a crowd, Hun observed. And finally, we welcome the master of the Foot Clan. Lee began to announce. The one who aided Azula in the conquest of the Earth Kingdom, and powers shall aid us in bringing a new age to the entire world. Oroku Sake. The Shredder. Lo and Lee announced as Oroku Sake walked onto the balcony. A massive uproar is heard as he stepped in the middle, Hun and Azula on his right, Karai and Zuko on his left. Sake turned to Lo with a smile. Thank you, and if I may, I have a few choice words of my own. Lo and Lee gestured for Oroku Sake to speak as he turned his attention to the crowd below. Sons and daughters of the Fire Nation. Oroku Sake began. In recent times, I have been called a hero of your world. In all modesty, I am merely a man fortunate enough to possess the means of assisting this great nation on the path of glory. My foot soldiers and scientists will do anything and everything they can to bring the great Fire Nation up towards the top as one of the greatest and strongest empires that shall forever stand and rule this earth. Oroku Sake raised his arms and all the Fire Nation soldiers cheered massively at his praise. Hun gave a knowing smirk, whereas Karai looked quite conflicted. Back on the stolen boat. Aang, Leo, Katara, Mikey, Toph, Raph, Sokka, Dawn, Master Splinter, Hakoda, April, Casey, Leatherhead, Bato, and several others all sat together and ate as many of them began to explain to Aang what had happened. After what happened in Ba Sing Se, we had to get you to safety. Sokka began to explain to Aang. We escaped to Chameleon Bay where we met up with several Water Tribe soldiers. Leo told Aang as well. The Earth King wanted to travel the world in disguise, so he set off alone. Dawn said. Well, not really alone, his bear Bosco went with him. Mikey added. It wasn't long before those fire chumps began to swarm over Chameleon Bay. Raph said. We were ready to unload a gallon of fist on them, but Leo thought it'd be a good idea to hide instead. Right, Leo agreed. We captured one ship and were able to slip away unnoticed. Since then we've been traveling west. Sokka took over as he pointed to their location on a map. We've crossed through the Serpent's Pass a few days ago. We did manage to make a quick stop by the Nexus Point to see if we can get some allies. Dawn said. That's how April and Leatherhead were able to get to this world. Dawn gestured to the young woman and the mutant crocodile. But that's all we could get. Casey said. There's practically a small army of foot ninjas surrounding that entire area, and trying to sneak in and out of a place like that ain't easy, let me tell ya. After that we hightailed it back out of there. Mikey said. We've seen a few Fire Nation ships here and there, but none of them have bothered us. So far. Dawn added. Where's my staff? Aang asked. We left it behind in Ba Sing Se. Sorry. Leo answered, causing Aang to look down in shame. Aang still had something to ask. But who exactly are the Foot? And who was that guy that did this to me back in Ba Sing Se? We don't know. Toph replied. The guys were waiting for you to wake up before they would tell us. All eyes set on the turtles as well as Master Splinter. The Rat Master sighed as he began. My friends, I had hoped this day would never come. We know who these people are. He took out black cloth with a certain red symbol on it. This is the symbol of the Foot Ninja, their leader is Oroku Sake. But he has another name, he is the Shredder. Everyone began to listen as Master Splinter spoke. My sons have told you of my beloved Master Yoshi, but now it is time I tell you the whole truth. Flashback. Hamato Yoshi was training in his home, practicing several forms of punches and kicks. My master was a ninja of great power. One of the greatest practitioners of ninjutsu in many centuries. I was his pet rat. The non-mutated rat, named Splinter, practiced the same martial arts moves Yoshi was performing in his pen. I learned ninjutsu by observing and mimicking his moves. For many years, I was happy. We were a family. Yoshi stopped practicing as his door was punched down by Hun, who entered with a couple foot ninja. But that life ended when the Shredder sent his foot ninja to attack my master. 2 foot ninja ran to him, but Yoshi jumped over both of them. One tried to land a kick on him, but Yoshi parried the kick, and parried a punch from another ninja. That same ninja was sent flying as Yoshi continued to defend himself. One ninja came from behind and put Yoshi in a lock as one ninja in front tried to attack. Splinter saw all this and growled in his cage at the ninja trying to harm his master. Yoshi kicked the ninja in front into the cage and it broke. Splinter continued to watch while hiding in the rubble. My master battled honorably. The second ninja was sent into a table with a vase, which broke upon impact. Yoshi made a battle stance as he stood his ground. However, Hun pulled out a device that launched 2 cords at him, which ensnared his right wrist. 3 ninjas followed suit with the same devices, one ensnared his left wrist, another his right ankle, and finally his left ankle. But through their dishonorable ways, Yoshi struggled in the restraints. The foot ninja overpowered him. Hun pressed a button the device, sending an electric charge through the cords, painfully electrocuting Yoshi. Splinter grimaced at Yoshi's pain, while Hun smirked at it. Yoshi fell to the ground. He was being held by the foot ninja who still kept him restrained in the cords. Then, the Shredder entered. Splinter watched as the Shredder entered the room and approached his servants and the restrained Yoshi. They accused my master of working for their enemies. Shredder gestured to Hun, raising his fingers and claws, who smirked. They wanted information. Hun pressed the button again, painfully electrocuting Yoshi even further, causing him to scream and yell in total agony, while Splinter continued to observe. They were relentless. Yoshi was thrown onto the ground. But my master only said one thing. He who lives without honor will end without honor. Yoshi stated with a glare before collapsing on the ground. This is a waste of time, finish him. Shredder ordered. Hun drew a katana and Splinter looked in fear. I tried to save my master. Splinter ran up and jumped to Hun's face and began to scratch and claw at it. Hun fell to his knees and grabbed the rat before throwing him out the window. But my efforts were in vain, though I did leave my mark. Hun felt along his face, mostly the scratch mark on his right cheek from Splinter. Shredder merely scoffed as he approached Yoshi. Bah, I will finish you myself. Splinter looked up from the windowsill in terror. Shredder lifted his claws and brought them down on Hamato Yoshi, ending his life. The Shredder had taken my master Yoshi from me, from the world. Splinter fell from the window in despair and landed onto a trash bag and then a puddle. Not long after that I found my sons, and you all know the rest. Reality. Splinter looked down in shame after finishing his story. Aang could only look in terror with wide eyes. Katara had a hand over her mouth as tears welled up in her eyes. Sokka was speechless. Toph's dull eyes were wide as well, with a tear coming down her left cheek. The turtles, Leatherhead, April, and Casey, all looked down in sympathy as they've heard this story before. Why didn't you guys tell us this? Aang asked. We didn't mean anything personal. Leo said. It's just, you already had enough problems with the Fire Nation. We didn't want to add to it. Plus, we didn't think we had to. Don added. We never thought the Foot would follow us here. Guys, honestly, how bad is our situation here? Katara asked. Very bad, Mikey replied. Scale of 1 to 10, 10,000. It can't be that bad. Sokka tried. No, Sokka, it is that bad. Raph told him. The Fire Nation is one thing, but the Foot is a whole different ballgame. The Foot, Shredder especially, is a far greater threat than the Fire Lord could ever hope to be. Leo stated. If anything, the Fire Nation are now Shredder's pawns. Are you serious? Toph asked. He's really that bad? If we are to succeed in this war, you all need to know who Sake, the Shredder, really is. Splinter addressed Team Avatar and their allies. He serves no ally, he fights with no great evil, he is great evil. Any endeavor he undertakes, he does for his own selfish gain. The whole of Team Avatar and their allies were speechless at this, their minds questioning how someone could possibly be more evil than the current Fire Lord. Aang decided to break that silence. So what now? We've been working on a modified version of the invasion plan. Hakoda replied. It's Sokka's invasion plan. Katara sharply corrected. April grimaced, as her talk with Katara had virtually no effect. Yes, Sokka's plan. Hakoda continued. We won't be able to mount a massive invasion without the Earth King's armies, but the solar eclipse will still leave the Fire Nation vulnerable. So we're planning a smaller invasion. Sokka added. Just a ragtag team of our friends and allies from around the Earth Kingdom, we've already ran into Pipsqueak and the Duke. Good to see you again, Aang. Pipsqueak greeted as the Duke got on his shoulder. But as you can probably imagine, with the foot being here, things are a lot more complicated now. Don stated. That's why we're here, April pointed out. Yes, Leatherhead agreed. We have dealt with the foot for quite some time, we know how they operate and how they think. Donatello, Ms. O'Neill and I have been working on advanced weaponry that should help even the odds. We'll also be making a few stops by the Nexus and gathering more of our allies from our world to help as well. Leo added. And the best part is, the Eclipse and the Turtles and all their friends, aren't even our biggest advantage. Sokka revealed. Yeah, we've got a very special secret. Casey whispered. You. Mikey told Aang in a slightly smaller whisper. Me? Aang asked, quite confused. Yep, the whole world thinks you're dead. Mikey revealed. Isn't that great? Sokka cheered. Leo, April, and Raph all face-palmed while Splinter gave a deep sigh. Aang's eyes were so wide they were almost circular. He slowly walked to the side of the ship and put his hands on the railing. Raph raised 3 fingers. 3, 2, 1. The world thinks I'm dead. Aang shouted at the top of his lungs. How is that good news? That's terrible. No, it's great. Sokka contradicted. It means the Fire Nation and the Foot won't be hunting us anymore. And even better, neither of them will be expecting you on the day of Black Sun. Don pointed out. No, no, no. Aang wasn't convinced. You have no idea, this is so messed up. Yo fellas, we got company. Casey stated as they all heard a horn going off. They all looked to see an approaching ship. I'll handle this, the Avatar is back. Aang declared as he picked up a metal rod, but he felt his aching side. Whoa, 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 hold on right there, mister. April told him. What are you gonna do? Hold that stick in one hand, your IV in the other. She's right, Aang, you're in no shape to fight. Leo agreed. Plus they don't know we're not Fire Nation. Katara pointed out. Yeah, but those guys ain't Fire Nation. Raph said as he looked in a telescope and spotted a red flag with the Foot insignia on it. Those are Foot Ninja. The Foot? Mikey questioned. It would appear they've already begun to integrate themselves with the Fire Nation. Leatherhead observed. Yeah, lucky us. Don replied sarcastically. Aang conceded as he withdrew. Everyone just stay calm, Bato, Casey, and I will take care of this. Hakoda said as he and the other 2 men put their helmets on. Pipsqueak had the Duke rolled up in a tarp as he tossed him over Appa and Leatherhead in a small cargo hold, the tarp concealed over the 2 quickly and easily. Leo, Splinter, Aang, Katara, Raph, Don, Toph, Mikey, and Sokka hid in a small hole themselves. I hate not being able to do anything. Aang whispered. Suck it up and deal, kid. Raph told him. Hopefully we won't need to. Toph whispered in agreement. The 2 ships met as a metal ramp was extended from one ship to another. 3-foot soldiers walked from one ship to the other, towards the disguised Casey, Hakoda, and Bato. Commander, why are you of course? The lead ninja asked. All Western Fire Fleet ships are supposed to be in Ba Sing Se to support the occupation. Actually we're from the Eastern Fleet. The disguised Casey replied. We're delivering some cargo. Eastern Fleet, the ninja questioned. Well, nice of Admiral Chan to let us know he was sending one his ships our way. He replied with sarcasm in his voice. I'm sure Admiral Chan meant no disrespect. The disguised Bato said. How hard is it for you fire guys to just send us one of your fancy hawks? The foot ninja still questioned. Next time we'll send 2 hawks to make sure you get the message. The disguised Hakoda stated. Fine, fine. The lead ninja brushed off. Get back to your post. Hakoda, Casey, and Bato walked away while the lead ninja gave a disgusted scoff. Fire trash. Sir, Fire Admiral Chan is supposed to be on vacation. One of the other ninjas informed the lead ninja. What? The lead ninja questioned. It dawned on him. This is a captured ship. He whispered to the other 2 as they began to walk down the ramp. Just stay quiet till we're on the other side, then we'll sink this ship. Toph's advanced hearing picked up on it as she got up. They know. She used her metal bending to create a tremor across the ship and knock down the ramp, sending the 3-foot ninja down into the water below. Katara used her water bending to push the foot ship away as they began to sail away as fast as they could. Well, so much for our disguise. Dawn said as the chase was now on. Fire Nation, Royal Garden. Zuko sat alone in the royal garden, tossing bits and pieces of bread to the turtle ducks in the pond. Someone approached him from behind. May I join you? Karai asked. Zuko made a gesture for her to sit down, which she did next to him. This is quite peaceful. Karai observed. Yeah, Zuko replied. This is my favorite spot out of the entire palace. My mother used to be right here with me. Karai gave a somewhat sympathetic look towards Zuko. So what is it that's bothering you? Zuko sighed. I haven't seen my father yet since we've got back. Karai knew what was bothering him. You're worried you've failed him, and you haven't earned your place back yet. Zuko didn't respond. Karai took a piece of bread herself and gave it to the turtle ducks. Once they ate it, a shadow loomed over them and they swam away. Someone seems down, Azula observed to Zuko. Karai shot a glare towards the fire princess, who ignored it. Has my gotten to you already, Zuzu? Though actually, my seems to have been in a strangely good mood lately. Well, good for my. Karai said. What is it you want, Azula? I was speaking to my brother, not you, Karai. Azula told her while the kunoichi glared further. I didn't capture the avatar. Zuko stated. Who cares? The avatar's dead. Azula replied. Yes, we are quite aware of that. Karai spoke as she stood up to face Azula. Now, if you would please leave. You are upsetting the mood here. There was a bit of a stare down between the femme fatales, before Azula merely scoffed. Fine, I know when I'm not wanted. Azula walked away. I'm guessing you two aren't exactly friends. Zuko observed. No, we are not. Karai replied. Is that what's been bothering you? Zuko looked down. Karai placed a hand on the prince's shoulder. I'm certain there is nothing for you to worry about. Karai then left away and left Zuko alone with his thoughts. Fire Nation Royal Palace. Oroku Sake walked through the hallways of the palace before he came before a set of drapes which bore the Fire Nation insignia on it. This was the throne room of the Fire Lord. Oroku Sake walked through the curtains and into the flaming throne room. It would seem I have a visitor. Ozai greeted. To whom do I owe the pleasure? I am Oroku Sake. Ozai gave a sinister smile. Ah yes, the Shredder. The one who aided my daughter in the conquest of Ba Sing Se. To what do I owe this honor? I was hoping to discuss the details of our alliance. I would like to make it permanent. Oroku Sake stated. Ozai rose from his throne and stepped down towards Sake as the two psychopaths met face to face. While I am indeed grateful for your assistance in the defeat of the Earth Kingdom, why would I allow this alliance to go further? Impress me, Ozai said. Oroku Sake smiled. Your Majesty, my forces have access to technology and resources well beyond anything this world has developed and will not be developed on their own for several centuries. While today the Earth Kingdom has fallen, the water tribes are still free and may indeed present a threat. The resources of the foot will help in the complete and total subjugation of both these countries as well as any form of resistance within your own nation, if a rebellion were to form. Ozai gave a slight smile at this. However, Sake continued, there is still one little issue. My forces have had to deal with certain individuals that have proven to be quite a thorn in the side of the foot for quite some time. Ah yes, Ozai began. Those turtle warriors my daughter has told me about. Indeed, Oroku Sake confirmed. While there are only 4 of them, I would warn you not to underestimate them. Their threat can be equal to that of the late Avatar, perhaps even more so. I mean no disrespect, your highness, but you know little to nothing about the turtles. I, however, know them quite well. Should you allow our alliance to continue, I will be more than happy to help you in slaying them, and anyone else who would dare stand in our way. Oroku Sake offered his hand to shake. Ozai stroked his beard for a moment, considering the offer. After about a minute, he came to a decision. Very well, I accept. Ozai shook his hand as the two madmen smiled. While we are on the subject of Boss Sing Se, Oroku Sake began. There is something about your son, that I wish to discuss with you. That caught Ozai's attention. The foot soldiers loaded oil-drenched boulders onto catapults, which they lit on fire with torches, and launched them towards the hero's ship as it tried to escape from them. Toph, Leatherhead, Pipsqueak. Load up, Leo ordered. You heard the man, load the Toph. Toph exclaimed. Leatherhead and Pipsqueak both brought large boulders to Toph, which she used her earthbending to send flying towards the ship. A few hit the catapults, and some hit the ship. But more catapults kept firing at the hero's ship. As the chase continued, April, Sokka, and Aang hid inside the ship. Aang was about to go out, but both Sokka and April stopped him, both shaking their heads before Aang banged his head on a metal stick he was carrying. The foot ship shot a harpoon to the hero's ship, which stuck to the hull and began to slow it down considerably. Leo saw this. Leatherhead, I am on it. The mutant croc dove down into the water and began to swim towards the harpoon. Once he came up to it, he bit into it and snapped the harpoon with his jaws alone. Leatherhead then began to climb back onto the ship and was helped up by Raph and Donnie. Katara, we're taking in water. Dawn exclaimed. She used her waterbending to condense around the hole and freeze it, sealing up the puncture in the ship. Katara, give us some cover. We are too exposed out here. Splinter told her. Got it. Katara then created a massive cloud of steam that completely covered both ships. Well, did it work? Mikey asked. Incoming. Raph exclaimed as he tackled Toph out of the way of an incoming fireball, which hit and destroyed all the rocks. We just lost all our ammo. Casey exclaimed. This was all Aang could take at this point. I can't just sit by and do nothing. He ran outside, despite the dismay of Sokka and April. Aang, wait. Sokka called out. April grabbed Aang by the shoulders. What part of, you're in no shape to fight, did you not understand? No offense, but you'd only get in the way. What? Aang angrily questioned. She's right, Aang. Sokka agreed. You're still hurt, and you have to stay secret. Just let us handle this. Fine. Aang grumbled as he marched back inside. The steam cleared as the foot ship kept launching more fireballs at the hero's ship. This one hit the engine. Katara quickly pulled water from the ocean to put it out. We can't take another hit like that. Dawn exclaimed. How we doing? Toph questioned. Things couldn't get much worse. Sokka replied. As soon as he said that, the serpent, from the Serpent's Pass, shot out of the water and roared at the heroes. Aw shell. Not this thing again. Raph exclaimed. The universe just loves proving me wrong, doesn't it? You make it too easy. Toph told him. The serpent roared at them. The turtles drew their weapons. We don't have time for this. Leo stated. But before anything else could happen, a fireball from the foot ship hit the serpent in the face. It turned its attention to the enemy ship. It dove under the water and towards the foot ship. When it rose, it began to coil its body around the ship, stopping it in its path. Leo, Sokka, Raph, Casey, April, Dawn, Mikey, and Leatherhead all saw this. Wow, now that was really lucky for us. Mikey observed. Not so much for them though. Dawn added. Thank you the universe. Sokka thanked some unknowing deity as the hero's ship soared away. Some time later, the ship had docked to an Earth Kingdom port where it would receive repairs and supplies. Aang sat alone in his room, staring straight up at the ceiling. He heard the door open and saw Master Splinter, Leo, Raph, Dawn, Mikey, Katara, Sokka, and Toph all walk in. Sup kid, how you doing? Mikey asked him. Same. Aang replied as he looked down. Hey Aang, we're going into town to get some food. Toph told him. You wanna come, considering you didn't eat anything while you were in your coma. Dawn added. Aang's stomach growled quite loudly. Well, I am pretty hungry, maybe dinner's a good idea. Sokka handed Aang a headband. Here, tie this around your head, it'll cover your arrow. Aang scowled. I'm not going out if I can't wear my arrow proudly. Oh geez. Raph face-palmed. Here we go. Aang, come on, be practical. Sokka told him. Young Aang. Master Splinter began. I understand how you must feel right now, but perhaps it is best that you protect the world within the shadows for now, at least until the invasion comes. Aang didn't say anything. You guys all go on ahead, we'll catch up. Leo told everyone. Splinter, Mikey, Sokka, Toph, and Don all walked outside. HMPH, looking good Aang. Raph told the kid. Not in the mood Raph. Aang replied harshly. For what? I don't need to hear how badly I got my butt kicked in Boss Sing Se, alright. I messed up. I let everyone down. I lost my glider. He slammed his fist on the side of the wall. I wasn't gonna say anything like that. Raph told him as he began to walk out. I was gonna say that you being even alive, even after what Shredder did, you are very lucky. Raph walked out, leaving Aang alone in the room with Katara and Leo. The red-clad turtle joined up with Splinter, Sokka, Toph, Mikey, and Don. Geez, what's Aang's problem? Sokka asked. He just walked out from a fight with Shredder, very few have ever walked away alive from him before. Don said. Yeah, take it from us. Mikey agreed. Still, it's no reason for him to mope and whine like a baby. Toph pointed out. Yeah well, the same kind of thing happened to Leo once. Raph revealed, much to the Earthbenders and Water Tribesmen's shock. Indeed, and the result is the same here. Splinter agreed. Young Aang has suffered injuries both physical and spiritual, he will need the support of all of us if his wounds are to fully heal. Back inside, Katara sat down next to Aang while Leo hung back a bit. I think I understand why being a secret bothers you so much. Katara placed a hand on his shoulder. You don't want people to think you failed. You're right, I don't. Aang replied. But the problem is, I did fail. Aang stop, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. Leo told him. Yes it is. I was in Boss Sing Se, I was there. He stood up from his bed. But I lost, and now the Earth Kingdom has fallen for good. It's not for good. Katara tried. Remember, there's still a plan, the invasion. And I hate the invasion plan too. Aang angrily exclaimed as he pulled down the Fire Nation flag. I don't want you or anyone else risking their lives to fix my mistakes. Aang, listen to me right now. Leo told him. Shredder thinks you're dead, and that is a good thing. How? Because if he knew you were alive, he'd stop at nothing to hunt you down. Leo stated. How's that any different from what the Fire Nation has been trying to do for the last 100 years? Aang questioned. Because Shredder wouldn't just go for you, he'd go through everyone around you. Leo began. He'd slaughter and butcher all your friends. Toph, Sokka, even Katara here, both looked in shock at Leo's statement. He'd kill them, all to get to you. Are you serious? Katara breathed. He'd do all that. You have no idea what Shredder's like. He is pure evil. Leo confirmed. All the more reason for me to do this alone. Aang insisted. I know now I need to face the Fire Lord alone, and if that involves fighting Shredder again, then fine. Aang, are you crazy? Leo questioned. Just look at what he did to you. You barely made it out alive. You cannot defeat Shredder by yourself. Watch me. Aang, you should listen to Leo. Katara tried. He and his brothers know Shredder better than we do. Katara just go, you to Leo, both of you, just leave me alone. Katara looked hurt at that, but Leo placed a hand on her shoulder. The two walked out. Is there anything that you need? I need to redeem myself. I need my honor back. Fire Nation Palace. Zuko walked through the halls of the palace and stopped just shy of the entrance to his father's throne. He took a deep breath before entering. Katara walked towards the room of the ship with a tray of food. I brought you some food. But she looked to see Aang was no longer there. Oh no. She ran out of the room as fast as she could. She bumped slightly into Leo. Katara. Leo looked to see her running down the hall. Leo looked into Aang's room to see it was empty. Ah shell. Aang had made a makeshift glider from the flag in his room and the long metal pole. He was using it to fly through the dark and cloudy night. Zuko slowly approached Ozai's throne. He bowed on his knees before his father. You've been away for a long time, I see the weight of your travels has changed you. Ozai stood up. You have redeemed yourself, my son. Ozai slowly approached his scared son. Welcome home. Aang continued to fly on his makeshift glider. He felt his aching side once more and began to slowly lose altitude. He quickly regained himself and continued to fly with an angry and determined face. Don and Leatherhead were on the deck of the ship, along with Mikey, Master Splinter, and Raph. The two mutant geniuses had just finished making a motorboat from the materials they had. Done. Don stated. What's a motorboat gonna do to help us? Mikey asked. It is quick if one wishes to get somewhere in a short amount of time, and it's small enough so it will be difficult to hit from a ship like this. Leatherhead answered. Great, now let's see if we can get some more high-tech goodies ready for the invasion. Raph said as he rubbed his hands in anticipation. Guys. Leo ran to them. Leo. Mikey asked. Leonardo. What troubles you, my son? Master Splinter asked as Leo caught up to the group of mutants. He's gone, Aang's gone. What? Mikey, Don, and Raph questioned at the same time. Where did he go? Leatherhead asked. Where do you think? Leo questioned, pointing towards the horizon. Well, we are close to the Fire Nation. Don pointed out. Just what is that moron thinking? Is he insane? Raph questioned angrily. Plus we got a major storm coming in. Mikey pointed out as they saw some lightning in the distance. This is not good. Splinter stroked his beard. He is letting his anger cloud his judgment. Guys, is the motorboat ready? Leo asked. Yes it is. Leatherhead confirmed. Why do you? Don tried to ask, until he realized what Leo meant. Wait, Leo, you're not gonna. Leo kicked the boat off the side of the ship and jumped down into it. Leo, what the shell are you doing? Raph questioned. I'm gonna find Aang. Leo called up to them. I don't care how stupid he is, or if he is the Avatar, I'm not leaving him out to die in this storm. Leo revved up the boat and shot out into the distance. Course that storm is gonna be the least of your problems when I get a hold of you, Aang. Katara ran out onto the observation deck where Hakoda and Bato were. She had tears in her eyes. I'll leave you two alone. Bato said as he walked inside and left Hakoda with his daughter. What's wrong, Katara? He left. What? Aang. Katara began. He just took off and disappeared. She explained with her voice cracking. He has this ridiculous notion that he has to save the world all on his own, that it's all his responsibility. Maybe that's his way of being brave. Hakoda guessed. It's not brave. Katara snapped. It's selfish and stupid. We could be helping him. And I know the world needs him, but doesn't he realize how much we need him too? How could he just leave us behind? That's when Hakoda realized it. You're talking about me too, aren't you? How could you leave us, Dad? Katara questioned as she cried. I mean I know we had Gran and she loved us, but we were just so lost without you. She placed her hands on her face as she cried. Hakoda placed a hand on her shoulder. I'm so sorry, Katara. She latched onto her father and cried in his chest and he embraced her back. I understand why you left, I really do. And I know that you had to go, so why do I still feel this way? I'm so sad and angry, and hurt. I love you more than anything. You and your brother are my entire world. I thought about you every day I was gone, and every night I would lie awake missing you so much it would ache. Zuko remained bowed as his father paced around him. I am proud of you, Prince Zuko. Ozai began. I am proud that you and your sister found our new allies, the Shredder and his forces, the Foot. I am proud that all of you worked together to conquer Ba Sing Se. Zuko looked somewhat pained, still remembering Shredder's blackmail attempt, but he hid it carefully from his father. I am proud that when your loyalty was tested, by your treacherous uncle, you did the right thing and captured the traitor. Ozai continued. And I am proudest of all, of your most legendary accomplishment, you slayed the Avatar. Zuko hid the surprised look on his face. What did you hear? Shredder told me everything. Ozai told his son. He told me how he was impressed with your strength, power, and ferocity, at the moment of truth. Zuko had a suspicious look on his face, which Ozai failed to notice. Aang continued to fly through the night, just above the ocean surface. Fatigue was getting to him, and his makeshift glider wasn't holding out so much. He soon spotted something that made things even more complicated. A blockade. Aang used his airbending to inhale a large amount of oxygen. He held his breath and dove under the water, using both airbending and waterbending to propel himself like a torpedo underneath the blockade. Once he was far enough he came up to the water's surface and regained his breath. He was now in Fire Nation waters. He took a look at his makeshift glider. He was certain it wasn't going to fly anymore, he needed another option. Aang swam to a piece of driftwood, and that's when he got an idea. Aang had now created a raft and begun to sail through enemy waters. The storm soon hit and it certainly didn't make things any more easy. Boss Sing say. The debris of the burnt remains of the Earth King's palace were being plowed away from the surface by multiple construction units. Down below in the catacombs, at least 100-foot technicians began to set up laboratory equipment. They just got the generator working and had 2 labs being built in progress, a technologies lab and another genetics lab, identical to the one they previously used underground. Stockman entered the genetics lab. He could see multiple screens come on as they now had power. The foot symbol appeared on a screen. Sir, Dr. Stockman, if I may. A technician approached the mad scientist. Why do we need a genetics lab here? 2 reasons. Stockman informed his subordinate. The first is because I am very fascinated by this world's bending and I would love to learn more. I'm sure the Fire Nation's prisons have many volunteers for us to use. What is the second reason? The technician asked. Stockman took out a briefcase and opened it to reveal 4 vials containing blood samples. These are DNA samples we've acquired from our turtle friends. From these samples, as well as our genetics division, I will create creatures that will finally rid us of those bothersome reptiles. Sir, another technician approached. We have Dr. Chaplin on the line. He handed Stockman a communications device. What is it, Chaplin? Stockman asked as he rolled his eyes. Oh, Dr. Stockman, sir. Chaplin spoke on the other line. We're about to bring in the Master's mystic temple here in the catacombs. This is just so awesome. Stockman scoffed. Right, awesome. Mystic nonsense. He rattled. Dr. Chaplin, a young and eager scientist in his early 20s, on the foot's payroll, entered a small crystal chamber within the catacombs, which was the same one Katara and Zuko were both imprisoned. Chaplin had red hair, glasses, and a white lab coat on. This is perfect. Chaplin observed the chamber. All right, bring it in. 2-foot technicians wheeled in a steel box. Chaplin opened it and took out the one item inside. A turquoise gem, with a gold handle surrounding it, and a symbol at the bottom that looked like an upside-down foot symbol on it. This was the mystic artifact, the Heart of Tengu. Chaplin took the Heart of Tengu in his hands. Man, this thing is so cool. The young scientist said. Soon the artifact began to glow brightly. It left his hand and flew to the very center of the chamber. Once it did, there was a large and bright explosion of light that forced Chaplin and the 2 technicians to cover their eyes. Once they opened their eyes, they could not believe what they saw. The entire room had been changed. It was now a massive chamber completely made of blue stone, and some pieces of stone hovered in the air as if they were being hung by some unforeseen force. Some minor fog fell all over the chamber as there was a staircase leading to a massive shrine. On the stairs were 5 statues of ninja garbed in ancient Japanese armor, with symbols below them that each represented one of the elements: earth, fire, water, wind, and metal. Awesome. Chaplin explained before going back on the phone. Drive Stockman. The temple has been restored here. You should have seen it. It was all, whoosh. And it all just. Yes, I'm sure it was quite exciting. Now get to work on those laboratories. Oh yes sir. The still enthusiastic scientist replied as he left the chamber to continue working. Pompous newbie. Stockman uttered as he hung up. The screen behind him shifted as Oroku Saki's face appeared on it. Progress report. Sake ordered. Stockman quickly straightened up to face the screen. Master. The labs have been set up, we have power. And Dr. Chaplin has just informed me that the Mystic Shrine is now active within the catacombs of this city. Excellent. Oroku Sake replied. Continue working, and keep me informed of any new developments. The screen cut off and the foot technicians began to work. Fire Nation. In a small chamber just outside the main Fire Nation palace, the foot had now set up their headquarters. It bore an equal resemblance to Shredder's main chamber in his New York tower. The foot ninja have finished construction as a foot flag was draped on the back of the wall. Master, we are finished. Hun informed as he, Karai, and several foot ninja bowed before Oroku Sake, who sat cross-legged on his flat throne. And once more father, Nearly all our forces, both combat and science divisions, have crossed over to this world. They have brought all our weapons and resources, including all the Utrom technology that we have been able to salvage. Excellent. Everything proceeds as planned, Oroku Sake stated with a slight grin. Wait, you can't come in without permission. All eyes turned to the front entrance where 2-foot ninja blocked the path of Fire Prince Zuko. I need to speak to your master, let me through. Hun was the first to approach the prince. You got some nerve, you scar-faced, fire-breathing freak, coming in here and demanding the master's presence. Out of my way, you muscle-bound Marone. Zuko told him, not remotely fazed by Hun's size. What did you call me? Hun, stand aside, Sake ordered. But, that's an order. Let him through. Hun gave a submissive nod. Yes, Master Shredder. Hun and the foot ninja let Zuko in as he walked up towards Shredder. Why did you tell him that? Zuko demanded to Oroku Sake. You'll have to be more specific than that. Why did you tell my father I was the one who killed the Avatar? Zuko demanded. That caught Karai by surprise. What? Oroku Sake bore an amused smile as he stood up. You recall, I told you back in Ba Sing Se that if you helped me in the conquest of that city, you would be so rewarded. Well, consider this your reward. You could have told him, you did it. Zuko said. I could have, but I choose not to. I decided to let you have the credit for that. Sake walked down past Zuko a bit. What do you want from me? Zuko questioned. I do not desire anything from you, young prince. Sake replied as he looked towards a flag that bore a symbol of the foot. This was merely a gift. If you're up to something, Zuko tried. Sake turned back to Zuko with an amused smile still present. What would I have to gain from telling your father a small bluff? Unless of course, there is something you wish to tell me. Zuko remained silent for about a minute as he recalled Katara once telling him about the spirit water she had from the North Pole and the special properties it had. He finally spoke. No, there's nothing, absolutely nothing. Saki's smile still remained. Well then, I'm sure you have nothing to worry about. Now, if you'll excuse me, Fire Nation Prince Zuko, I have business to attend to. Zuko walked out of the chambers. Karai followed close behind him. Once outside, Karai slowly approached Zuko. What do you want? He demanded sharply. I did not know of this. Karai began. I was not aware my father told your father this. Father? Zuko questioned out of surprise. Shredder is your father. Karai nodded. He is indeed. Zuko began to slowly walk away. Zuko. Karai spoke to him. I understand there are a lot of things that weigh heavy on you, but if there is something you need, you can talk to me, and I will listen. I promise. Zuko stood still for a few minutes. Thank you. He then walked away. Back inside the chamber, Hun spoke with his master. There is something that kid is hiding. Indeed. Oroku Sake agreed, which is why I will be keeping a very close eye on him. Oroku Sake turned to the right towards 2-foot ninja. These ninja were different from the others. They wore dark blue sits with orange goggles. These were foot tech ninja. I want you two to follow Prince Zuko wherever he goes. Oroku Sake told them. Make sure he does not see you. Once you find what he is hiding, report back to me. The foot tech ninjas both bowed before pressing their foot symbols and turning invisible. Leaving behind a smirking Oroku Sake as he drank some sake. The storm continued to rage, lightning struck everywhere, the water surged with waves in all directions, and the wind was deadly. Aang was stuck on the driftwood, having just lost his makeshift glider to the wind. He yelled as the elements were all against him. Aang screamed as a large wave enveloped him, sending him underwater, along with the piece of driftwood. The wood floated to the surface just as Aang got back up. He regained his breath as he held onto the wood. I'm not gonna make it, I failed. There was a brief surge of thunder before a blue and transparent spirit appeared before him, this one bearing the appearance of his predecessor as Avatar. Roku. You haven't failed, Aang. But everyone thinks I'm dead again. Aang said grimly. They think I've abandoned them, and I'm losing this war. I'm letting the whole world down. If anyone is to blame for the state of the world, it is me. Roku began. I should have seen this war coming, and prevented it. You inherited my problems, and my mistakes. But I believe you are destined to redeem me, and save the world. Aang wasn't convinced. It's not just the Fire Nation anymore. Shredder, I can't beat him. He's unstoppable. No, he is not. A new voice spoke out. Aang looked behind him to see a new spirit approaching. This one made of gold fire is a man with dark brown hair and a blue ninja-like suit approached the avatar, walking on the water itself. Who are you? The confused avatar asked. I am Hamato Yoshi, young avatar. Splinter's master. Yes, Yoshi confirmed. It would seem that you have also inherited my own problem as well. But I cannot fight Shredder. Aang stated. I tried and look where it got me. You tried, and you died for it. That may be true, young warrior. Yoshi began. And while it is true the Shredder's threat is beyond imagining, far greater than even the Fire Nation could ever conceive, it is not only your world that is in danger, but all of them. With the Nexus at Shredder's disposal, he has access to all the worlds that it connects to. But it is not hopeless. You do not face the Shredder alone, you have others that will stand by your side that have faced Shredder before, and have defeated him in the past. Aang realized it. The turtles, Master Splinter. Indeed, Yoshi replied. If you are to defeat the Shredder, it will be with them beside you. Together, you will all save this world, and the others as well. You cannot give up. A true warrior never admits defeat, not in the face of the enemy. Aang took all these words to heart. You're right, I won't give up. Rest, Avatar Aang. Yoshi told him. Rest, your friends are closer than you think. Aang's eyes closed as he let his fatigue take him. He saw Yoshi's spirit fade and a green, three-fingered hand reaching towards him. The next morning, Aang laid flat on a crescent-shaped, volcano island. He groaned as he slowly woke up and held his aching head. About time you woke up. Aang looked to see Leo sitting on a rock a few feet away from him, with the motorboat he used on the rocky beach. Leo, you pulled me out. Yeah, I did, Leo told him. Aang then had a surge of guilt going through him. I'm sorry. I ran away. I just. Forget it, Leo said with a grin. I've done my fair share of sneaking out too. So don't worry. And before you go on about me risking my life to get you, don't, that's what brothers are for. Aang gave a slight smile. And besides, Leo continued, it looks like we've got company. They both looked to see Appa land on the beach. Katara immediately got off and ran towards them, with Sokka, Raph, Toph, Mikey, and Don right behind her. Katara embraced Aang with all her might. You're okay. He let himself fall in her arms. Sokka and Toph followed suit. The turtles surrounded them and just smiled, even Raph with his arms crossed. You really had us worried there. Don told Aang. Don't give us heart attacks like that, Mikey stated. Raph gave Aang a light smack on the head. Ow, that was for ditching out on us. Raph told him. Well, I guess I deserved that. Aang admitted. True. Raph agreed with a grin. But, you pull a stunt like that again, Shredder is gonna be the least of your worries. Yes sir, Aang replied. I have so much to do. I know, but you'll have our help. Katara said. All our help, Leo agreed. No way, are you getting rid of us that easily? Mikey said. You didn't think you'd get out of training just by coming to the Fire Nation, did you? Toph jokingly questioned. What about the invasion? Aang asked. We'll meet up with my dad, Master Splinter, and the others on the day of the eclipse. Sokka informed. We already have a rendezvous spot and time set. Don added. We'll have to cross through most of the Fire Nation to get through there though. It certainly won't be easy. Aang said. If something could be done easily, it probably ain't worth it. Raph told him. What about Shredder? Can we beat him? Aang asked. Yes, Leo told him with confidence evidence in his voice. Shredder's tough and vicious, but he's not invincible. We'll face him again, likely during the invasion. If that happens, you'll leave him to us, just keep your focus on the Fire Lord. Got it, Aang replied. It's also best I stay hidden, no one knows I'm alive. Not yet at least, Raph said. Come on, we got a lot of ground to cover. Leo told everyone as they all mounted on Appa and began their journey through the Fire Nation. And this is the end of part 7 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Don't really leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.